really looking at their peak. T1 struggle is obviously well documented in summer, but for me, G2 as well, even though they did end up winning, you know, a lot of the early games looking quite sluggish, having to come back in a lot of the games, and so it has been nice to see here at Worlds so far, even in the few games that we have seen really early on, that each of them have truly embraced their own metas and really started to improve on a lot of those issues from summer.
And that's why someone I think who's really stepped up for T1 is Owner. He has been fantastic in their game, and specifically on things like the Vi. So I was wondering if we would get a Vi ban, but we're not going to see it. Instead, it's going to be Renata and Braum taken away. So immediately, still an Orianna open available for Caps if he wants to go towards us.
And I kind of like that from G2 because one thing that T1 have done, they've stayed true to Guma and Keria wanting to play really heavy attack bottom lanes, really aggressive, you know, double range bottom lanes in multiple games there. Plus G2, we already saw the Orianna Nocturne combination. It was beautiful, but Nocturne has been demonstrated to work with so many other champions. Gen.G, of course, using with all kinds of other things, the Ahri, the Aurora, even the Twitch. So the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think of Nocturne as only this champion that goes in, but you have to think about turning off the lights in a team fight and how impactful that can be. We talked a lot backstage, Dagda. You were pontificating on if you leave the Nocturne up, will we see the Orianna immediately picked up by T1? But instead, it's the Ahri here for Faker.
And that's what I thought we'd see, Orianna taken away, and then you'd have some adaptation for something like a Nico or something like that coming through for Caps to try and facilitate alongside the lights being switched off. But they're going to go back towards an Ahri Skarner, which I'm not a big fan of because I think it lacks a lot of damage in that mid lane. But it does mean that you're relying on someone like Gumayusi to come out with something like a Kai'Sa or something along these lines to really be that damage dealer for the mid game and facilitate this low damage mid jungle combo.
And the biggest thing to me is for T1 is almost always Zeus, and I'm very happy that he's on red side. So you're like, oh, okay, you know, they got a Skarner jungle, they're gonna have some tank there, but Zeus having basically guaranteed counter pick possibility for him, I think is huge for T1, since to me, Broken Blade has really become such a big force for G2, and his flexibility was one of the biggest tools that they used, you know, the Galio counter pick into the Rumble and whatnot, but in this game, he's probably gonna be forced to bind.
I think it's also curious if you end up leaving the counter pick for Keria, right? Because I think he has been fantastic in that role where he's been able to get that R5 counter pick, bring out some unusual supports like the Nico and that, and then try and terrorize you through that. So maybe that's it, but with the Jax now locked in, potential here to take that.
Exactly. Now you can counter pick with both roles. Best of both worlds. Let's see what they decide to log in early here before the second round of protection bans come in.
Jax is something Broken Blade's relatively comfortable on, is fifth most played. Gragas is going to be the lock. This is a long-term known counter pick into the top lane. If the Jax ever tries to jump in, you just body slam him away. You can also out-sustain him in a lot of matchups.
And I have a fun fact, because I was just looking at Zeus stats, and I was scrolling down, and Gragas is one of his top 10 most played, and it is the highest win rate within that top 10 pack at 83.3% win rate, career long for him. Not only is it a very well-known pick into Jax because of the body slam, because you can keep Jax at a distance and deal with the Counter-Strike, but also it is one of his highest win rate champs.
Yeah, I mean, he's been absolutely exceptional when he gets hands on it. I think when you're looking at a combo that is definitely a, hey, we want to jump in on top of you with Nocturne, with Jax, with more than likely another engage support for Mickey, having that disengage off the cast is going to be so important, and you can already see they're banning away a lot of those immediately. One on the Rell side, but on the opposite side, a lot of that anti-dive for the AD carries. The Xayah gone. I wouldn't be surprised with an Ezreal to be taken off the board here as well.
Kai'Sa removed by T1, so we're not going to see Gumayusi that in the bot lane.
Yeah, I think this is the setup for the Ezreal pick. Kai'Sa kind of your traditional counter to that. And Ezreal at least has 2 dashes that he can try and avoid some of this engage, although it is still difficult. So I wouldn't be surprised with the Ezreal here. Keep the counter pick then for Keria on R5 and see how it goes. I'm not a fan of this one.
I think Gragas gives you a little bit of damage. You can run Storm Surge Gragas as well if you want. So often when we see Ahri Jhin, the question is where's the damage coming from in that composition? Gragas gives you a little bit of it. Also, Jhin does give you good control around teamfights.
When I've seen BLG basically run this exact same comp against T1, it was that lack of damage because you don't oftentimes have your top side with you when you're trying to play off of side lanes and that. And I think that's where you're really going to struggle here as T1 is in this core that's supposed to work around early void rolls and drag.
Draven!
It's Hans' Draven!
Let's go!
Let's go!
Oh, we talked about this so much. We were like, you can't really pick the Kalista early because the Draven might get locked in here. Hans laying down the gauntlet against Gumayusi. Hans His Draven was so well known. He was a solo queue terror on it before he even joined Misfits and Rogue, and then every now and again we get to see it pop up for him.
And there's so little backline threat from here as well. Sure, there's a cask, but in the grand scheme of things, you should be fine to try and hide behind a lot of your setup here as the Draven. Now with the Nautilus locked in as well, this is a pure aggro bot lane.
And I love going for this when you have the first pick Nocturne guaranteed already, because you're talking about hiding, and Nocturne will just turn off the lights.
Mně se že pikli Jackse na trojce a nepikli Real. Kdyby pikli Real na trojce a pak 4-5 top lanera, tak je to 100krát
There
lepší.
is a Orion and Nocturne that's always going to look for him because Faker's going to play Ahri, and Ahri has her own dashes. Plus, you're going to have a Nautilus casting Nautilus ult on you. It's like Guma does not get to play.
And that's the big problem for T1 here. You see how much dive there is from G2. I love the fact they've decided to go for this all-in composition. It's taking the fight to T1. T1, on the other hand, do have good disengage, and if a fight gets disengaged, Jhin can start to rain hell. Ahri's dashing around the fight. You have the Gragas ultimate as well to split it up. It feels like T1 in multiple small skirmishes might be able to win, as opposed to a full-on 5v5.
Yeah, I think it is still a little tough, because I think G2 did a good job of getting rid of a lot of these anti-dive tools, like the Renata bench, right? So sure, you've got some kind of back with the Ahri and the Gragas, but you still at some point have to turn around and fight it. Then you're running into things like a Draven and that. So G2 definitely on paper have a good start. It's just a bit, can they have a good early game to facilitate that?
And I will say, T1, they have had some good early games, and they have a lot of pick potential on their side as well. If you're looking at things that will make it difficult for Hans to play, Leona ultimates, Zay's very, very good Gragas, and Skarner, it's not the same as a Nocturne, but you can go through walls. And something interesting about Skarner in lane swaps, it gives you a lot more options than junglers usually have. Usually junglers kind of go to sleep in lane swaps and just go for jungle camps, but Skarner does have a lot more angles to surprise people from, so very interested to see the setup here.
For the third time this year, we see T1 and G2 go on to the Rift in a series. In Chengdu, it all
Let's
came out
go,
in T1's
G2!
favor. Here, the European fans behind them. Can G2 make it third time lucky? Onto the Rift we go. You talked a little bit about the possibility of a lane swap for this Skarner. Do you think, looking at the compositions, we're likely to see one?
I mean, if you want to get away from a Draven Nautilus, then there's definitely a possibility there. Doesn't look like very early on anybody's going to make a move for it. And honestly, I want to see these two bottom lanes fight it out anyway. So I'd be happy with that situation. Going to have a little bit of a movement now, though. You see him already starting to shift.
Yeah, I think the only downside for Mickey is that you're definitely playing a more passive version of the bot lane matchup thanks to supports. Like, Nautilus wants to try and hook Keria out of the Zenith Blade and set them up, but we'll have to see how they're going to try and play that one out.
That was an interesting cover. They were kind of expecting a little delayed invade there.
Oh, Mickey. Mickey, Keria is there. Mickey tries to stretch line away. The charm moves him in place. I don't think Mickey needs to burn the flash here. He knows he's done for.
So
nice block to T1.
And I really think G2 actually had the slight read on this. They thought that there was going to be a delayed invade. That's why Broken Blade actually hovered over by Raptor camp. But then they felt like it had been too long, and T1 wasn't still going to go for it. But T1, they just upset them with the timing.
It was actually something that happened in game one of the first best of 5 at MSI. Faker got caught out moving around toward that Razor Beaks to get the ward in that he so often does. Here, G2 read T1, but T1 read G2 reading T1. And they just out-mind game them here. Mickey will get back to the lane, didn't burn either of his summoners. But that first blood going over to Gumayusi is so impactful for the lane if he can go back and spend that money.
Yeah, even the fact that you just get push allows you so easily to do that, now that you have that advantage as well, with Hans Sama being late to the lane, so you get to reset, set things up a little earlier. And as I was talking about, the fact that you have the Leona here actually makes this the more aggressive lane for Gumayusi, because he can look to play on that not only item lead, but the fact he has the barrier as well gives him a lot more trading power in the potential all-in. So I think if Owner is able to get down here off of the resets, I think T1 could look to punish further the G2 bot lane.
And if you look at those junglers, Yike is the one clearing down towards the bottom side, but Owner's going to make a quick move over here because they know that they were able to sweep out Mickey's ward, and he's got a path towards Caps.
Trying to pressure Faker in the mid lane. In comes Oner, just wide. Caps able to sidestep it, but might have to burn the flash to get away from the charm. He misses too. Caps with the fancy feet.
So smart from him, dodging towards Faker, even though Oner coming behind him, and it's a little bit dangerous going towards the Ahri. He's able to avoid both of them, sidesteps the Skarner as well as the charm.
Just nice job hiding in front of the minions as well, constantly sidestepping so that then you're always having some body block in front of Faker. And now that kind of alleviates a lot of that pressure for Caps in the mid lane. Plus, when you look at the Ike, he just continue to farm up, so he'll get a bit of a quicker reset off and can be back on the map first.
That battle in the mid lane is one we have to keep our eyes on. Obviously, both of these players just exemplary when it comes to mage play, but at MSI, it was Caps who kind of got out on top of it, apart from a couple of great plays from Faker. Across the course of their history, you can see Caps actually has the advantage in terms of series, but Faker always comes up in terms of games.
And if you're looking at this year, leading up to this tournament, people probably would favor Caps individually. I think another thing that Gank does in mid, of course, is show Oner cleared bottom side to top side, like guaranteed. They for sure know it. So now it should be very easy for G2 to play around Oner's positioning. Already, Yike was able to steal away top Scuttle Crab because of the mid lane gank. And now Caps just has to hover down to the bottom side.
Faker, Charm Flash, always a possibility. Caps gets Charm, Jack's on his way as well. There's the edge of it style, but doesn't get the stun into the wall. Faker forced low. Oner walking away as well. Caps didn't burn anything again, and the gank is low HP.
And it's a really nice job here in the early stages from Yike. He gets the top crab, immediately move bot, gets bot one, covers there on the mid play for Caps too. And now you're in a position where you've a bit of a nice 8 CS lead for yourself.
Zenith played in. Kevin's going to have to push on HunSummer. HunSummer on his Draven.
Draven cashes in. Even though Mickey went down in the level 1, HunSummer gets paid here. That's quite nice. That's really going to even up this bottom lane. Let's see what they're going to get on their timers back here, because Dragon also back out on the map. And then you're already looking a minute ahead of time for the grub swap.
Yeah, very messy sort of skirmish there in the bot lane. But the important thing for HunSummer on this Draven is he is building up those passive stacks. And if you get a kill without dying, you get that extra influx of gold. You can see he's 50 gold ahead right now, but you have to remember Gumayusi had first blood. So technically, he should be ahead if the CS is even.
Yeah, and I think it's just a really nice job here from the G2 bot lane to be able to turn it down. You get the route on towards Kerry, who didn't have the aftershock in the engage. So HunSummer is just able to follow up and get that damage down. And when you think back to when G2 were considered the strongest early game team in the LEC back last year, it was this Draven that so often they would play around and get these big leads, and able to punish T1 on this bottom side and getting this Draven off to a BF sword start in this bottom lane.
And then there's the swap for Grubs immediately. Duo lane going up towards the top side. Broken Blade wants to try and push a little bit first.
Draven!
Summer continues.
Draven!
Into the back of Zeus. Away from Hans, splashes forward. Zeus splashes away. We'll get the slow.
Zeus is too good! Zeus is too good!
Zeus can open up and Zeus.
Kurwa, Zeus!
Kill for the Gragas. Meanwhile, in the top lane, a hook's going to land onto Oner. Broken Blade.
On neměl level 6 Draven.
Yike, Mickey and Broken Blade disengage.
Loves that play from Zeus. He lures HunSummer in, trying to play off of the Draven ego that all Draven players do have. And again, coming into this game, Zeus has a 20-4 record on Gragas. Nice little punish there, but G2 still going to get those topside grubs.
I think the important thing for HunSummer is, although he burned his flash and his cleanse, Gumayusi had to do the same on the other side of the map. So it's not just he's expended his resources with nothing happening to his enemy AD carry.
I think the play on towards the top side though really helped out G2, obviously, because they do force T1 away, which then gives them void grubs. Traditionally, when we see the AD carry swap and you don't move your Draven up towards the top end, it becomes very easy for T1 to outnumber and outdamage you in these early stages. But not having the Draven there still worked out for G2, just off of being able to push T1 away.
And we see that classical exchange, grubs for Drake. As you say, G2 did a good job of getting the prio in the top lane to make sure the grubs were a safe bet, but T1 will happily accept a Cloud Drake for themselves. Most of the action has been around our bot laners so far, but perhaps Zeus here, no flash, does have the explosive cast coming back off cooldown in a second, and as soon as you see Keria, you call off this dive.
Good read from both Keria and G2, spotting that Keria was up there. Broken Blade now trying to force Oner away, but I think it's more of a bluff than anything else. I don't think you want to over-aggress into that, as Caps completely out of man in the mid lane, and you had the Gumayusi hitting level 6 on that bot side.
think the grub buff really is going to be critical in this game too, because both of these teams do have so many ways to pick off people in the side lane. So if you can get the towers down quicker, then you're going to open yourselves up to snowball very quickly with these compositions having so
je to problém, že již ve 2 odpoledne. Spíš nebaví ten pichlavý komentář.
Yeah, that's the important thing. It's the breakpoints at 4 and 6 grubs, right? So the expectation is in
about 2 minutes 40 seconds, když vidíš, že jim, vole. Ten člověk ví, že já jim, že prostě z nějakého důvodu jim pozdě, z nějakého důvodu, a on prostě musí mít pichlavý komentář toho, že nekomentuju hru vůbec. Asi ne, vole, asi budu, vole, tady kašlat krev a jídlo u toho, abych komentoval hru, když, vole, se dusím. Proč to vytriguje? Protože ten člověk má 60 IQ, já nesnáším stupidní lidi. Mě triggerujou úplně v opice IQ mě triggeruje. A těch lidí tady je strašně moc, co mají v opice IQ. Nulová empatie. Actually, já mu jdu dát permu prostě. Já jsem se rozhodl. Permaban. Čus, 3 komentáře. Hned je mi líp. Hned je mi líp. Tak! 500 goldů div, 600 goldů div proti Van a to je na Gragasovi, jinak všechno even a support gold je irrelevant. Protože mám Mickey, ty vole, 255 goldů, on pofarmil někde pláty? Ne.
Yeah, I think for G2, what they're looking at is trying to get the flashback up for Hansa, so ahead of this Void Grub fight that is inevitably going to come, but you are going to have the flash for
Hansa zafrownul hru, ne, nebyl to throw. Prostě chyba.
Well. So as Kobe was already saying, I think this is going to be an absolute barn burner of his crap, and with the rotations already coming through for Zeus moving up here, I thought they might actually try and transition him down to the bottom side so he can TP up to the fight if necessary, but it may be T1.
Kaps hrál zatím mega pěkně.
Ještě
musím mít umýt ruce, protože mám ulepený ruce.
The early gold and the fact you've got so much CC in the kit for the Gragas.
And we may get to see our first, attempted execution of a Nocturne Orianna combo. That is going to be, one of the opportunities here if you're able to draw them over first. As you can see, they're all very early trying to get some extra vision. Mid-prowl turns into vision towards that setup, and Owner already into the river.
They are sending Faker at bot lane. He doesn't have the teleport, so T1 I think need to make some sort of play beforehand to deny the 4v5, and that Broken Blade could potentially TP into. So they're a little bit late on the resets here for T1.
You can always go with the strat of saying, hey, maybe we won't deny you the 4 grub buff, but we'll at least steal away 1 with a smite for Owner, especially with Skarner, a champion that can go through the walls and get out pretty easily, because Yike's not going to be able to smite all 3 of them, so if you kind of put some pressure there, but now we have the reset, so Faker already back to base, Lucidity boost, and heading out for it.
But they are late. I mean, 5 seconds now in the Void Grubs, and you've got push in top, you'd push in bot, so Broken Blade gets the plates, and you're in position as G2 first. I think T1 have fumbled this a little bit.
G2 will start up the grubs.
Grubíci, máme 3 grubíci G2, pozor. Ninja tabi Jin. Lana level 6. Ult. Draven ult! Wow! Ne, on to misnul! Draven to misnul, ale vyhráváme. Tady Draven je huge. Draven tady je monster huge. Ale jak to, že žije tak dlouho? Dobrý. Kámo, co se tam postaralo? Draven misnul ult. Draven misnul ult. Draven misnul ult na tu Leonu, a takže Leon Turna musel zautit na Leon. Ale dobrý, Draven, když traduje killy, tak je to good.
Our kind of like first objective for G2 was at least get 1 Void Might spawn, and they did at least acquire that.
But great play from Zeus, right? Because actually was about to break.
Bany samé, borci, za to, že dám jeden permaban, kvůli tomu, že ten člověk má 60 IQ, tak to tady není jak Miško average, halo? Mám jeden, ne? Cápek legit, má pichlavý komentáře a je... Pozor, sleduj. Tyhle, tady škoda, že ten Draven nehydnul ult. On misnul ult. Proč zaultil tak pozdě a hlavně aj? Tady by totiž Nocturne zaultil a hry a zabil by. A to, že ten Skarner je nesmrtelný, je huge. Ale dobrý tady, že tady Mickey zůstal a zabili a hry. Však to byl dobrý joke. Nepřijde mi dobrý joke, když já legit jsem říkal asi 40krát, že od 9 ráno jsem vzhůru, dělal jsem strašně moc věcí, nejedl jsem a mám v sobě jenom kafe. A když jím jídlo, tak Cápek je kokot a směje se mi, že jsem noob streamer, že nic neříkám a že komentuju na hovno tu League of Legends hru. Tak sorry, ale to mi nepřijde OK. 5 grubíků, ale je huge. To je ubrečené, co není možný. Tak čau, Ferma. Protože já jsem říkal, že jsem nejet a že mám jako špatnou náladu kvůli tomu. Pome! 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 5 grubů! 5 grubů, ty vole, a divíček, nice! Nice.
Yeah, but look at the bot side. Faker's completely pushing in. Gumayushi still looking for more. Broken Blade gonna have to place a ward so we can hop on out of there. There it is, but as they went for that engage, Mickey hooked on towards Zeus right as the cast came through, so I think it ended up a little bit more wonky than expected, but T1 are picking up so much on the map.
Yeah, I think the calls from T1 in response to that commitment from G2 were very, very good. T1 did not panic at all. They also did not over-allocate resources. They only had 3 people to defend under the dive, and they're like, it's fine if you kill someone, we're gonna get a return kill and stop your 5-person push. And they just had Owner, instead of coming to try and trap,
Já jsem dostal klasický Agralus stunlock od nějakého 60 IQ kokota.
Also getting that push there. It's these small things.
Já se dívám na League of Legends hru na to.
That's what I was about to say. 7 plates to 7 plates. A lot of the top side objectives going to G2. Dragons for T1. Rift Herald started by T1 here though means that they should be able to get that advantage when it comes towards the objectives. And already with the pressure that you can have with Faker on these side lanes, I think that's where you can transition Faker from side into mid and look to crack open this mid lane structure.
I think this is what we were all hoping to see as well, though. Like 14.5 minutes in, the gold within 100. The difference between the lanes is, well, top side is winning for T1 and bot side is winning for G2. T1 do have those 2 Drakes in their pocket. Zona secures the Rift Herald as well. There's a possibility of a dive in the bot lane.
Já jsem se chvilku díval do chatu. Tak, jdem zpátky na League of Legends. Ale tady ty divy jsou super, protože Draven je feedle kokot, Jhin má jenom jeden item a je úplně useless jakoby proti Dravenovi, dokud nemá 4 itemy. Tady by měli hrát tak agresivně, jak hrajou, a furt divovat. Nebát se toho. Jediný co, tak musí udělat to wombo combo správně. Mají 5 grubů, takže hitovat turety je úplně mega OP pro ně. Tady dive. A pozdě vzali tu turet. Kde Draven ult? Není. Kurva. Tady to trošku přecenili. Měli zabít tu turetu faster a potom. Ty vole, tohle je close hra. Choukujou to, jsou moc pod pressurem G2. Tady měli všichni hitovat turetu a blokovat. BB měl být u turety, aby nedostal ult do jeho týmu, do enemy týmu. A tohle je na piču, že veme tier 2 Faker. Ajajajajajaj. Faker teď bude 2k gold ahead, to je, wow, to je, piče, to je hodně blbý. To je hodně blbý. A celá tahle sekvence, legit tahle sekvence je game losing.
T1 just got a bunch of gold off this defense, and look at Zeus. He's so smart. He goes for the
tady
knockback.
Jax má být tady, aby ho to knockl do turety. A nebo tady. Tím, že ho to knocklo back, tak je to mega bad.
It's also really smart just keeping their damage dealers away from the start of the fight. You can see the shockwave hits 3 people, but it's Owner, Zeus, and Keria, and it's like, who cares? They're tanky enough. So then Faker and Guma come in later and actually start putting the damage down.
And that's where every single fight we've watched, it's been very difficult
for
G2
by tuhle sérii, nebo tuhle hru vyhráli, kdyby nebyli pod tlakem. Mají lepší draft. Jen škoda toho Nautiluse a ne Real, nebo Leony.
And in the initial team fight over the second Void Grubs, everyone was clumped up, so they invite all that to be burst on towards the tanks. So T1 are just kind of setting up for these team fights incredibly well and being able to play through, as you say, the damage dealers constantly being safe and the massive threat they spot.
I think what G2 really need to leverage right now is this Nocturne's ability to pressure the side lanes, because
musíme nějak prešerovat s Nocturnem. Ne prešerovat, zabíjet lidi, co nemají flashe, ale oni všichni mají flashe, krom Ahry a Ahry má ult.
They still do have a lot of territory to work with now, and if Yike can get one more level, you actually get a nice range boost on your ultimate, but...
Solar Flare. Yike puts up the shroud.
Ne, zautil oba dva. Ale ult! A ten Gragas. On dropnul sekery, Hans dropnul obě sekery. Ne, on dropnul tu many sekery. A zase myslel ult, ten Gragas je annoying. Gragas je annoying. Gragas, kámo, Zeus dává 1v9. Zeus dává 1v9. Kámo, ale tohle je top popiči hra, to je taková agresivita, non-stop fighty, ty blázne.
They can't fight around it anymore, and they'll back towards the bot lane.
The cask again from Zeus, splitting up that fight perfectly in favor of T1. It looks a little dicey for Gumayushi as they have to flash over the wall, but T1, these team fights consistently going their way.
And this one,
yeah, Keria gets focused early, but Keria's a little bit of a bait. Sleduj. On misne, hlavně ten Gragas cast, sleduj ten Gragas cast. Tohle je bad, ale tady ten Gragas cast, jak odhodí. Oh my god, on odhodí 3 lidi. Tady dropnul 2 sekery Hansama. Gragas byl huge tady, bej. Legit. Gragas tady dal 1v9. Já jsem si korek na Dravena. Nemyslím si. Je to BTI LDR. Já jsem si rebet. Secondary item. Nepotřebuješ manu. Manu potřebuješ jenom v laning fázi. Jinak Mahony díky za 25 korun a rozhodně mám víc peněz z donatu než ze subu. Jestli chceš jako giftovat, nebo jako se ptáš, jestli někdo giftuje. Skarner je nesmrtelný, Gragas taky, protože má Frozen Heart. Orion je tak strašně behind, že nemá magic damage, my legit nemáme magic damage. My máme teď full AD komp jakoby. Tím, že má Orion jenom jeden item. Ahry je full item ahead. Full item ahead. Tady musel postavit LDR a i LDR. Ideálně.
And Faker just saying, cool, well, I'm going to push out everything on the map, making it possible for G2 to try and play through Orianna Nocturne and just draw again G2 further around so T1 can continue to put the pressure on.
And I don't want to like inject
na tomhle patchu Mortal Reminder vždycky stavit, protože to je o 10 AD menší, ale na novém patchu to je podle, jestli potřebuješ execution nebo ne.
G2 shine a lot, you know, when they are forced to come back in creative situations. Oftentimes, they'll say, fine, T1 are going to be efficient and they're going to play all 3 lanes and close in on us, and G2 like overload one side with the Orion and the Nocturne, and the Draven ult comes through, and they just, you know, commit to picking off one of the points for T1, and then they kind of surprise you with being somewhere that's not completely
Borci, tady ta hra vypadá bad. Tam byla game losing chyba na tom bot turret, na bot lane turret. Na té tier 1 a potom druhá game losing chyba byl ten fight u Draka.
So what you're saying, Kobe, is G2 are so good at playing from behind because they've been behind a lot of the time.
I've seen, yeah, especially in
recently,
summer.
Yeah. I mean, they did really well versus Fnatic, you know? I think T1 may be a different beast, Kobe. I'm just going to put that one out there.
You take the nameplates off and then you replace them with whatever suits
game losing,
your
Imagine if you could do that. Instead of having the actual opponents, you just replace it with like humanoid. Make it a bit easier for G2. They have had Fnatic's number this year, but T1 have had theirs. 2 series, 2 wins to the LCK number 4 seed, and currently they are looking to make it 1-0 in this.
Jax nezačne vyhrávat sidelane. Nebo takhle, reálně možná tak na 6 těch itemech, 5 itemech. Mahony, díky za ty jedničku. Dobře to zahráli. Dobrý. Draven, shutdown. Neměl flash. Huge combo. Skurvený Skarner má 6000 HP, Mickey to dodgenul. Nemůžete fightit? Dobrý, shutdown pro Dravena. Draven potřebuje LDR, ale... Draven potřebuje LDR. Faker má flash? Má flash.
Faker has flash. You won't want to burn it, obviously. Broken Blade can just jump across to this wall, trying to dodge away from the Charm here. Faker with the Foxfire. Charm goes wide. Broken Blade won't be having him any more of that action. Pops the Scryers. G2 trying to set up on this top side now. You can see Zeus pushing out bot, but he's got teleport to join.
Tohle stejně to nemusí dělat full na cooldown, jo. Ale teďka mají zase flash, hej, teď má zase Jhin flash. Ale ono je to těžký flashnout, takže to může udělat na Jhina, i když nemá flash. Kdo vyhrál draft? Za mě G2 měli lepší draft, nebo mají lepší draft, ale problém je, že udělali dvě game losing chyby. Dvě game losing chyby. No, kdyby místo Jaxe piknuli Real na trojce a pikli jakýkoliv 4-5 top lane matchup, tak je to mega OP. Na tu stejně není zase good. Nebo jako není to špatný, ale není to tak good jak Real. Oni podle mě čekali, že Real nebude banu for 5, ale každý tým má zabanovat Real for 5. Mají 3 draky, Dragon Soula je problémeček. No, on to bloknul. Používají všechno na Mickeyho. Jo! Gragas, kurva, Gragas. Gragas. Co to je za prasnicu ten Gragas? Ale použili všechno na Mikixe, použili všechno na Mikixe, hej? Už má Mortal Reminder, už má LDA, už má Mortal Reminder. Hans. Použili všechno na Mikixe, to jako... Tady to možná můžou fightit, protože mají TP. Jo, tady to musí fightit. Fight. Tohle je good, 4v3. Blasting Plant. Nemají ultimátky. Problém je, že Ahri bude mít ultimátku potom, ale nemá TP. Borci, musíte fightit, co tam děláte? Blok na Gragase, huge. Ale proč nefajtíte? Ahri nemá TP, není tam. Borci! Bojíte se moc. Gragas má zase... Kámo, Zeus dává 1v9 celou hru. Zeus dává 1v9. 1v9 Zeus. Tady je to konečná. Zeus. Neblind pikujte Jaxe, prostě, já to nesnáším, blind Jax. Má to 4 výhry, 10 proher na Worlds, ten champ je useless. A ty lidi to stejně dělají. Tady byl takový špat, tak oni měli tak dobrý draft, kdyby pikli Real na trojce a ne Jaxe. Dylan, Falco, Bráško, to nemůžeš takhle intit. Nejde to takhle. Máš být nejlepší coach wave'u.
Pretty sharpish that he can't go for it. Still charmed up. Spear rush forward by Faker. There's the curtain calls as well, and his curtains for Mickey. Carrier takes him.
Hans je ještě dead, protože Ahri má ult, ne? Kámo, Gragas má ult každých 30 vteřin, nebo co? Kámo, Ahri a Faker Ahri, kurva. Faker Ahri a T1 Zeus. Legit tady prostě 2v8 od Fakera a Zeuse. To není vůbec funny. To vůbec není funny, jak do píči využívají ty dva chumpy. Perma play, perma fight, perma play, perma engage, perma angle. Kepse Mega B není. Kdyby jakýkoliv mi dařila Orianu do tady té Ahri a Gragase, tak si nezahraje. A je 0-10. Ahri a Kapsy 1-2. Ještě po těch dvou game losing chybách. Ale Zeus dává takový 1v9, to není vůbec funny, kámo. Tady se dívejte, jak se hraje top lane. Mickey Inky celou season, no, hele legit, já jsem to říkal v tom champ selectu, ale já když vidím Jaxa a Nautiluse v týmu, tak já bych si vsadil proti tomu Jaxu Nautilusovi. To jsou tak dva useless champové.
Zeus will be the one on the front line, Faker will be the one on the back, but Zeus immediately locked up. You can see how much damage he can tank. Faker going in with the charm, it goes wide.
Nice.
Zeus almost
Co? Kurva, skurvená soula. To si děláš prdel. To si děláš prdel. To si děláš prdel. Kámo, nerf Fakera Zeus. Ty pičo, 27 minut, insta-fight, perma-fight, non-stop, hej. Top lane je balance, top lane je balance. 5 lidí tankuje ten Gragas 20 vteřin a ještě vole to. Ale tahle hra byla po piči, to je non-stop akce, non-stop engage, non-stop fight. Mega po piči. Ale nechápu, jak ten Zeus ultí tak dobře, prostě třeba v tom fightu. V tom fightu, kde prostě tady je člověk takhle a on prostě zaultí ty lidi tím stylem, že tady odletí AD, nemůže dávat damage a pak úplně zničí formaci. Kámo, jako...
The god of cracking a code on your screen. That was absolutely insane from Zeus, and G2 looks stunned.
Kamo, Zeus. Hrozně po piči. Jax 1, 2, 3. Na trojce mega bad. 4-5 Nautilus místo Leony mega bad.
Game number one. You know, it got to start off all flashy with killing Hansama, who the Draven had just cashed in, just bought, was like filled
ale my jsme byli v tak dobrý pozici normálně. Draven kill, mega po piči, nádherný team comp, krom dvou prostě krom Jaxe. Nautilus je v pohodě, ale není to dobrý champ. Mohli tam piknout Leonu. A fakt ty fighty jsme měli vyhrávat, ale prostě misplaynutý fight na Heraldovi, kdy Draven netrefil ult na Leonu. Game losing T1 fight na botu, kdy Jax se nechal zaultit do týmu. A potom game losing fight na Drakovi. Prostě... Okay, G2... Prosím, teďka pikněte Nocturna a pak Rel Orianna. Rel Orianna, nebuďte stupid. Tak, Nocturne, správně. Správně, a teď oni si piknou. Co oni pikli? Ahry něco? Nebo co pikovali? Ahry něco? Doesn't matter, Ahry Vi. Doesn't matter, Orianna Rel. Orianna Rel. Orianna bude ale hard proti Ahry Vi. Ale Caps to zvládne. Orianna Rel.
Flamejoyou donáty 25 korun český.
Orianna Rel.
Vůbec se nerozčiluj z těch hejtrů.
Proč?
Na to, že už máš 53, zvládáš stream skvěle.
Proč tam není Orianna?
Menší než 3.
Proč tam není Orianna Rel? Teď mají zas counterpick na midu a zas counterpick na topu. Kdo to draftí? Dylan Falco! La Flame Enjoyer, díky za 25. Ahry není counter na midu, Ahry Vi je counter na Oriannu. Ahry Vi je counter na Oriannu. Orianna od levelu 6 je non-stop dead. Orianna tenhle matchup vyhrává do levelu 6 a od levelu 6, pokud kdykoliv bude chtít hrát agresivně, je mrtvej. Ahry ho zabije z Vi. Takže od 6 Ahry má pressure a může roamovat na sidelane. Protože oni pikou Ahry s tím, že oni ví, že piknou Oriannu. Protože ty, když first pikuješ Nocturne, tak oni by měli reálně first pikovat něco jiného než Nocturne. Oni by měli first piknout něco a pak piknou Orianna Nocturne. Protože oni pak neví, nemůžou pak blind picknout Ahry s tím, že ví, že bude Orianna, chápeš? Pořád lepší drafty než ve Fnatic, true? Jako to v pohodě, to jako můj brácha trénuje Fnatic a já jsem ho vyhejtil a že ten draft, co udělal, tak byl nejhorší draft on the planet. Nemám problém. Jako jestli si myslíte, že headu nepotism, ze světě funguje nepotism, ale já vole prostě v momentě, kdy můj nejlepší kamarád něco udělá, můj brácha něco udělá, je to trash, já to vyflamím. Já to nebudu obhajovat, já nebudu říkat. Já nejsem jak vole ostatní.
G2 really wanna go very aggressive down there and kind of fight T1.
Relv zase v banu. Who would have fucking guessed?
Let's see what T1 do this time around. Very similar.
Jhin, pikněte Leonu aspoň, hej. Leonu, ne Nautulusa. Leonu. Leonu. Nautilus nepikuj. A nebo co tam je za ty supporty další? Nevím, prostě ten Gnar na 3, proč? Kajsa, OK, to je good. Kajsa je good. Kajsa je good, Kajsa je good. Jako teďka Nautilus je jako OK, ale... Co tam pikne? Proč nepiknul Rel na free? Alistar? Jako, ale, hej, Nautilus, tím, že máme Kajsu, tak Nautilus je good, OK? Nautilus je OK. Problém je, že jsou lepší piky. Alistar by byl dobrý, honestly, Alistar by byl taky dobrý. Renatu zabanovali 1, 2, 3. Blitz ne, Blitz ne, Blitz ne. A hejvaj Jax, Jhin, Leona. Gnar, Orianna, Nocturne, Kajsa, Nautilus. G2 má zase pěkný draft, hej? G2 má pěkný draft. G2 má pěkný draft, problém je, že tak jak hráli early game, tak to bylo sus. Nebo ne early game, mid game. Jak tam udělali ty 3 chyby, tak to bylo po sobě, prostě to je... Mně se nelíbí ten Nautilus. Není to good, ale není to nejhorší, je, jako... Čím je teď lepší Nautilus než Leona? Kajsa Nautilus je lepší kombo než Leona Kajsa. Ale jako reálně tam mohli piknout Leonu a být v pohodě anyway, hej? Trash se nehrá, protože je úplně useless. Ty prohraješ se, ten Trash je úplně dogshit champ. Fakt ležité úplně. To je kdybys hrál Teemo support. V momentě, kdy prostě se dá wardnout lanterna, ten champ neexistuje. Oni by museli udělat, dej do piče ten kurzor kokotko, dej do piče svůj účet kokotko. Tak. Pozor, ty lidi, co říkali, prosím, máš tam kurzor, nebo vadí mi tam ten kurzor, tak jsem nebanoval, jo? Ale jestli mi člověk napíše, jdi do piče kokotko, dej ten kurzor pryč kokotko. Čus, nauč se chovat. Ale onu mohli piknout, Kajsa, ale ona taky není špatný. Prostě.
Would even break up probably. So I've just been so happy to continue to follow this roster.
Jako tady ten Gnar Jax není tak velký problém jako ten Jax Gragas matchup, jo? Gragas Jax matchup to je ty pičo, to je FF. Když ten Gragas to umí hrát, tak je to unplayable pro toho Jaxa.
Yeah, I do think though, like T1 was kind of on everyone's bingo card as the team that was probably most favored coming into Worlds with the big meta shift, right?
Simone, tu aférku.
He really enjoys like the Orianna and the Ahri.
Chat, oni mi dali houby.
And then Zay's been able to again play through
Hey!
owner being that facilitator.
Oni mi dali, co ty houby v tom kuřecím kokosovým byly nějaký, vole, silný, ty vole.
Big crash down to win tournaments for T1, so
ty
vole. Starting to drift back into what made them so potent and what turned them into multi-champion, world championship.
Já jsem říkal, že ty houby chutnají nějak divně.
No lane swaps here, Kobe. I know you're quite happy about that fact. Zeus trading with Broken Blade, both of them gone grasping this top lane.
Tady ten Gnar Jax není tak hrozný, hej? OK. Co s tím Trashem a lanternou? Oni musí udělat to, že se dá zavardit lanterna, že to nemůžeš vzít, když na to někdo dá vardu. To je pičovina. Nevím, proč to ještě neudělali. Prostě ten champ neexistuje. A co zas BB dělá? Level 2! Proč si nechal level 2 all-in-nout? Kamo, Zeus gapuje prostě top lane. Every game. Protože BB, ale BB je good, BB je náš nejlepší topář. Jsem špatně se vyspal, nebo je ve stresu, nebo já nevím. Prostě... Kámo, ale Caps jak insane je, že prostě neflashuje. Má cookies, hej, ale tady ho flashne. Faker. Kámo, oni furt campí Capsa, protože ví, že Caps je jediný, kdo tam něco zahraje teďka momentálně. Protože Zeus říká, BB choukuje na topu, BB choukuje na topu.
Trenky donáty 25 korun českých. Nazdar,
Měním trenky.
či otáčaš.
Měním. Každý den.
Does bring it out from Yike for a little bit of extra movement speed on the
tohle
chase.
bad,
Faker
Caps
here
teď
might
nemá
have the flash
flash.
because Yike is looking for that fear.
Proč ne...
Red buff slow, but he doesn't know where Owner is.
Jako vím, že neví, kde je Vi, ale...
We'll see about repeat ganks because the number one
Kruchu, jo, to je vlastně pravda,
is Vi plus Ahri. Level 6, guess what, you're dead. And now Caps does not have his flash.
Fanatic Aférku teďka vyšlo nějaký další video a zase na to lidi reagovali. Ale Fanatic Aférka, nevím, prostě udělali, nezabanovali Joneho a lidi z toho blázní. Když reálně Jone má 20 winů na Worlds, nikdo ho nebanoval. Do nedávna.
To come steal away your second Raptor spawn. Whenever mid lane matchup is a big point.
Problém byl, Jone nebyl problém, honestly. Víš, co byl problém proti Fnatic? Že oni měli Jone, Rumble, Rel.
Because that allows you to continue to camp around mid lane without dropping resources.
Víš, že prostě když máš Joneho a neměli by Rel a neměli by Rumbleho, tak Jone je takový, že se to dá obehrát. Jako dá, fakt já. Je to OP, ale dá. Ale když, vole, ty necháš enemy týmu Rel, Rumble, Jone, tak ty, vole, to můžeš být Faker a nezahraješ to.
Thanks to that Raptor steal. Yeah, and of course Yike on the opposite side, you know, doing some similar stuff there. They got the ward onto the second spawn of T1 Raptors, so it will see Owner's positioning.
I think Owner, Zenith Blade's gonna go on to Mickey here, tries to
dredge. A Leona prostě better champ, hej, dívej prostě tady. Leona má 2 kvéčka, když Nautilus má 1 kvéčko. Prostě mi to vysvětli. Ten matchup byl dřív vždycky, nebo takhle, ten matchup byl vždycky Leona favorite, ale prostě oni potom nerfnuli Aftershock tím stylem, že Nautilus je squishy, ale Leonu nenerfli, protože její dvojitý Včko je broken. Leoně musí nerfnout dvojitý Včko, musí. Její dvojitý Včko je prostě nesmrtelnost, je to OP. Oni říkají, že Game 1 je lepší pro G2 než tahle hra, že je lepší než Game 1, já nesouhlasím. Zatím to nevypadá jako líp. Faker, teda Caps už nemá flash a má freeznutou mid lane a Orianna vyhrává ten matchup do 6, nebo měla by vyhrávat ten matchup do 6, ale protože ji gankovali, tak je to even. A teďka od 6, kdy Ahri má 6, tak Caps je dead. Tady udělali, tohle se mi strašně líbí, to co udělali. Že AD šlo na mid a Caps je na botu. To je insane good, hej. Tady kdyby zůstala Orianna na midu, tak je dead. Na 100% je Orianna dead tady. Tohle je huge.
Hans and Mickey into mid to try and get the shove there as well. The problem for G2 is if they do look for an
Co?
engage, Zeus still has the TP where
To jak
Caps does not.
huklo?
So this could very quickly turn into a 5v4. Broken Blade very low on rage as well, starting to build it up.
Okay, what the
He's only a
fuck?
third of the way there so far. Owner going lower though.
Good,
Dustblade
good,
coming
good.
out.
Ah!
Mickey looked for the flash hook. Meanwhile in the bot lane, Caps is trading up with Zeus.
Ne, tohle je fajn, tady nemají ultimátky. Kámo, jak insane je G2, že tady Orianna šla na bot lane, nezůstala na mid lane, protože kdyby šla na mid lane, tak tam prohráli. A teďka vyhrává do Jaxe Orianna. To je insane.
advances through that choke point.
To je good.
I love G2's calls there, playing for damage. You saw Caps down here actually poking out Zeus, and then immediately jumping on the two separated in river to just play for some health bars to be able to get yourselves the objectives first. The small chunks in damage allow them the opening. Again, a 3-glove start here for G2.
Jo, tady ten swap Orianna na bot, Kai'Sa na mid, moc pěkný makro.
A nice job from Caps as well on that bottom side, because one of the big things that, as Medic was alluding to,
Nový
the
MO,
potential
ukáže
TP,
to
but Caps puts pressure on towards Ace to deny that opportunity to try and come in. And T1 were trying to be sneaky against Broken Blade there, but the ward just
Je tu Jarda. Jardo.
Okay, so for G2, T1 though will still be relatively happy with
Udělal si ty emoty, Jardo. Ty Halloween emoty.
Slightly larger gold lead for Gumayusi on this Jhin, and they really start to come online when they get that first item, second item. Now both level 6 on Ona and 7 on Faker means they have that.
Ozzy, chceš přístup na 7 TV, abys udělal Halloween emoty? Ozzy je mladá krev moderátorská. Dělá přesně, co mu řeknu. Nemá keci, nic za to nechce, já využívám kapitalistický studenta, je tady 24/7.
Docs told me to, but I legit actually prefer the G2 comp side with the small adjustments that they made in this game. So, because they have the actual versatility of the Kai'Sa,
AK novodobý otrok, ano. Tak nechtěl jsem to tak nazvat, ale ano. Ale bohužel napsal, že nemá zájem o 7 TV.
I mean, it would be much more exciting if G2 were able to take this game, and obviously, as LEC casters, we are slightly biased in that regard, but continue to watch the game and just want the best League of Legends we can see. T1 here will be able to get the Drake. G2 really shouldn't fight this, because Broken Blade TP'd up to the top lane only a few moments ago. If they try to invest, obviously Zeus can join the battle, and they would be at a numbers disadvantage again. They won't battle against it. See Yike just hovering Hansama and Mickey in case anything does happen, but with Guma and
Radis tam má práva, Radis se na to vysral. Radis prostě si dal, on byl moderátor a dal si unmod. On se vzdal moderátorství.
Already, you see the bottom lane moving up. One of the biggest objectives when you do have Vi Ahri is to try and control the vision between the river here, so you can have these alleyways where you go for those picks and then you get to turn them into extra pressure on the map. And so Keria and Guma also
Borci, jak to vypadá? Tady je problém Ahri Vi proti Orianně. Caps to musí hrát fakt safe, hej? Caps musí ten mid lane hrát mega safe.
And so Caps, I mean, he has had confidence this game in his movement, which has definitely been very key, and his flash cooldown that was actually blown.
Kdo tady z moderátorů se chce chytnout 7 TV a udělat halloweenský emoty? Já mám rád halloweenskou ozdobu, strašně rád mám halloweenskou ozdobu. Reálně, kdybych nebyl tak turbolínej, tak bych tady měl halloweenskou ozdobu v tom pokoji. Ale já jsem turbolínej. Když jsme byli v New Yorku a měli tam ty baráky halloweenskou ozdobu, tak to bylo hrozně pěkný vibe. Takový baráky s červenýma cihlama, ten je straight up dead. Takový baráky, jestli to dají Ahri, což dají. Ne, kurva, blbý. Ne, dobrý, bye.
Vi Ahri, pretty good at getting picks because they can jump over walls there, but also, you know, props to Mickey.
Takový ty červený baráky, jestli jste byli někdy v New Yorku nebo jste viděli nějaký seriály, tak takový ty baráky červený, co mají ty červený cihly odhalený, nemají omítku, s halloweenskou výbavou, to byl vibíček, kámo. A to byly takový anglický domky, no, byly. Ono to bylo v... Kde to bylo? To nebylo v Brooklynu. Má ult Vi? Nemá. Co dělá?
Finds another as Broken Blade can't escape his clutches.
There was no escape there. Owner waiting over the wall. Broken Blade tried to sidestep it, but good call from Owner, just hold on. But still on the opposite side, Void groups galore, and it will be, I imagine Zeus starting to put a bit of pressure here to answer for some of the third places. Faker, no way he catches Mickey again.
You put everyone on pause.
6 grubů. Gnar s 6 grubama je good, hej? Good. Mikix to tady inkí. Ne? A? Nemá ult.
They break into the solar flame into the death of Yike.
GG. Já se omlouvám, že křičím, ale...
I'm heartbroken. We were so close. Mickey, though.
Another Zenith blade. Ona has cease and desist here, but I don't think she might just be coming off cooldown. Decides against going for it. TP to the top lane by Faker as well. G2 will walk away wounded and 1.6k behind.
Oh man, Faker with one of his getaways. Regardless, Mickey should be able to get out here with just the Gromp steal for Owner, but man, another one. This is a big investment.
Klipnul někdo ten křik, dal bych jako vyzvání na šéfa XDD.
Now it's kind of the reverse situation, and Faker did get that little,
My region, Nocturne Flash. Ale tady Gnar s 6 grubíkama bude huge, na botu se divuje.
Oh, bot side.
Oh, Zeus flashes away. He's hit with
Kapsito! Overall! Vemte tu turetu, fast, hitujte to. Proč tady není Nocturne a Nautilus? Proč tady není Nocturne Nautilus? Fight! Musíte vzít first turret. Borci, first turret. Nautilus tady měl být divovat. OK. First turreta, ale shadowou 3 lidi. Ale good. Juice! OK, 700 goldů jdeš. Orianna a Gnar musí být... TBH Orianna musí být feednutá, nebo Gnar musí být feednutý jako kokot. Je to hrozně důležitý. Proč Nocturne jde tenhle ten item, aby měl častěji ult asi, ne? Nebo? Problém je, že Gnar musí být fakt ahead a Jax musí být behind. A Orianna musí být ahead.
Gold as well, and those are the types of plays where you really want to see the reset and kind of set up for it on the other side, but they jump on it and they get the small benefit, even though they have had a couple of speed bumps here. Are able to get a little bit more gold.
And now you've got first items almost complete across the board. It's only BB who doesn't
Jsi byl klasický Američan, tak se sperma stěhoval. Z jedné ulice na druhou, XD.
I think T1 gonna focus up towards Rift Herald, which is probably right against the Chemdrake. And G2 gonna see maybe if they can make some play, but there's no tower for BB and he's so far extended.
Ahri nemá flash, ale má ult. Vi nemá flash, Jax nemá flash. Problém je, my musíme zabít nějak Gumayushiho. Kurva.
It's interesting that they have such a bounty on Broken Blade's head, it feels like. Not in a literal sense, but they've got a target on his back. T1 keep on going for these assassination attempts onto Broken Blade. It's almost like when they gave up the 6 scrubs, they were saying, you are not going to have a split pusher that can use these. We're going to make sure of it because while we did give up the 6 scrub buff, we killed Broken Blade when we did that, and then we're going to keep looking for kills on him and try and really put that Gnar behind.
Tohle začíná vypadat jako, že G2 nemůžou fightit. Kámo, ale oni mají přečtenýho BBho a Mikixe. Legit. Oni prostě ví, že Inky a perma je fokusujou. Oni si zavardí, ví, že prostě chodí punishable way, Mickey, punishujou ho. Faker, sledujte, jak se hraje Ahri. Sledujte, jak se hraje Ahri. On ultí na cooldown. To si děláš piču, že tady divujou. To si děláš prdel. Tady máme štěstí, že každý targetnul jinýho. Tady máme štěstí, že každý targetnul jinýho. Tady máme takový štěstí, že každý targetnul jinýho čampa. Oni splitli fokus. Jinak bychom dostali dive.
That darkness was crucial for G2. Being able to dodge, duck, dip dive and dodge in the darkness away from everyone was
ale sleduj Ahri, jo? Faker ultí na cooldown, když hraje Ahri. On hraje strašně dobře do Ahri. To je jedno, že mysneš, že ty to máš za 60 vteřin znova, hej? No 50. Tady kole, jeden fokusuje Kai'Su, jeden fokusuje Nocturnu. Tady měl Jax honestly fokusovat Nocturna. Kdyby Jax fokusoval Nocturna, tak nás tady vipnou, protože Ahri dostane reset a čus.
Keria goes back in, while the rest of them are kiting away.
Kámo, G2 dostávají Turbo Stomp. To je, já jsem myslel, že to bude jako víc close a že G2 budou mít fighting chance, ale T1 kámo se úplně probrali. A zase nám ukazují, že prostě když přijdou Worlds, tak T1 vole můžou být reálně jeden teamfight od toho, aby se nekvalifikovali na Worlds, ale v momentě, kdy jsou na Worlds, tak vole prostě zapnou nějaký tlačítko, nějaký vole nějakou páčku zmáčknou a Faker se probere, hraje jak god. Si to tam začnou turbo stompovat. Orianna je feedlá, což je good. Problém je ale Jax Vi.
Upping in towards the Zhonya's first means he doesn't really have that big firepower. I think it's the correct way to go because there's a lot of threat here with the dive from Owner and Faker and even Kerry being able to follow up, but it does mean that you just lack that oomph in your ultimate for this Orianna.
At the moment, T1 in control of the game, about 3,000 gold ahead. A Drake apiece means there's no so
Jax je useless champ
pushing in the top lane and the TP
no jakoby je. Jax musí být strašně ahead, aby byl useful. Pěkný TP flank, pěkný TP flank. Dobrý tempo, teď vemou tier 2 to? Ne, nevemou. Ještě tady Jax good? Já si nemyslím, že Jax je tady good.
Yeah, that one was a little bit questionable. I know that they also have Gnar pushing on bottom side, but after Caps took the first tower,
ale dostáváme dobrý punish na side, no, jakoby hodně dobře chytají BBho a Capse. Je tu šance, že to G2 otočí. Museli by reálně acenout T1. A Orianna nebo Kai'Sa by se museli monster feednout. Ta šance není moc velká na to, že to tady G2 otočí. As you say, Zhonya's almost there for Caps. One item as well on Hansama, 2 though on Gumayusi on that Jhin. Is the Mosquito build, a G2 prehrajou vypadnou, ne? Vypadávací série se hraje zítra. Zítra je vypadávací série. Zítra, kdo vypadne, tak je out. Já čekal jsem, ale fakt jsem čekal, že G2 aspoň jako budou mít nějakou odpověď na T1 a ne, že budou dostávat Turbo Stomp every game. Jako tohle je crazy. Tohle není moc pěkný. Jeden tvoj divák mi píše DMs a nadává mi, prosím, ban, jméno je Rasha. Ne. Nedělá nic na mém channelu. Reportni to na Twitch support. Aha, flashnul tu Shockwave. Moc early dal Caps. Tohle je FF, guys, to je FF. Tohle je FF. Faker tam failnul ult, ne? Za hry. Frosty Weirdo, díky za 7. Nedal tam ult do zdi, Faker?
Caps doesn't get the shockwave onto him, and T1 are able to win out on the fight.
Just massive from Team 1, as you say, that flash timing from Gumayusi, absolutely perfect. They're looking for the third Drake. Onan will go back towards it. They were just kind of checking to make sure that G2 hadn't snuck towards the Baron to try and take that away.
Kámo, no nevím, prostě Nautilus, BB si tam dává meditaci, ale...
the biggest advantage for T1. I feel like not only the defensive kind of timing there with the flash, but also they never hesitate on their engages. When you watch this T1 roster, when they're at their best, it is always these very quick, flashy engages that they do not hesitate on, and they punish you immediately. I mean, right there even, they jumped to, as soon as they saw their first target in River, immediately go for it, and Pinsir from the other side as well. It feels like this T1 are a bit more locked in, and they are not going to leave any openings for you.
And this is the T1 that a lot of fans wanted to see coming into Worlds, right? A team that can be proactive in the early stages.
Ale víš, co je super, že T1 hrajou dobře a T1 reálně mají šanci vyhrát Worlds. A kdyby vyhráli T1 back-to-back Worlds, tak by to bylo insane po piči.
Dagda, you're also mentioning the Vi for owner, which has already been good for him at Worlds. It continues to be very, very good for owner at Worlds. And
Hansama není main charakter tuhle hru. Upřímně, kdy naposledy byl Hansama main charakter jakoukoliv hru. G2 výhry jsou reálně jenom o top jungle mid. Ale já Hansamu neviním, ono jako je hodně těžký mít impact teďka za AD carry, pokud nejsi úplný Viper nebo úplně nějaký dog, úplně insane hráč. G2 vždycky vyhrávají kvůli tomu, že top a mid jsou ahead, no, a jak je tam takový do počtu.
So then you can't really afford to send anything down at Zeus because they will jump on that Baron.
By mohlo vypadat finále. Mně by se líbilo T1 proti LNG finále. Hrajou teďka oba dobře. Ale máš tady Hanvu, která teďka underperformuje. Hanva to choukuje hodně, kámo. Máš Damwon, kteří taky choukujou divně. A pak máš Genji. Genji jsou problém pro T1. Genji ví, jak vyhrát proti T1. Takže někdo musí vyhodit Genji. OK. Mickey flashnul a bloknul Charm? Ne. Ne, jo, ne. Tam to bylo close. Pome! Ne, co dělá BB? Shutdowny. Okay. Škoda, že nezabil toho Fakera, ten Gnar to mega najítil. Ještě jednou. Tady je to tak split fokusný. Jax engage ne. Dobrá zóna od Kapse. One shot Jax stopwatch. Nocturne zabíjí Jina 1v1, XDD. Jak broken je Nocturne? Teď tam Caps tam dá hrozně moc velký damage a kdyby tam trefil to dvojitý Včko, tak to tam je mega insane. Škoda. Hej, to je hustý, jak se dívá. Vidíš, jak Nocturne ultí, jak se dívají na ostatní monitory? Wow, let's go, good! Máme shutdown! Ej, máme shutdown. Caps tam, tohle chaseujem, ten je taky dead. Caps se tady feedne, pome. Capsi to, dejte to Capsovi. Proč to bere Gnor? Proto má ten Nocturne tady ten build, jo, aby ultil na cooldown. Protože oni nemají flashe a abusujou ten flash.
They still got the advantage though, and I have to say, the Nocturne going so deep in both of these plays, this is the real key playmaker
here. Tady to vypadá dobře, teď to vypadá comeback jak svině. Teď potřebujeme vyhrát ještě jeden fight, aby to vypadalo jako good. Nebo jeden skirmish. Oni jdou okamžitě in, kámo, to je, oba dva týmy jdou okamžitě fightí. Wow, pěkný shutdown. Dobré. Len to nedojebat, no jako T1 jsou furt na tom velmi dobře, hej? Jediný štěstí je, že Vi má všechny goldy. Reálně to, že má Vi tolik goldů, je k hovnu. Kdo nemá flash? Ahri nemá flash, Vi nemá flash, Jax nemá flash, Leona nemá flash. Potřebujeme nějak zabít tu Ahri, hej? Z Nocturne Arena Kajsa ult kombičkom.
G2 are forced to make a decision here. Is it going to be a dangerous face check, or are they going to try and get control of the mid wave first?
Pozor, pak se podíváme na goldy, Pozor, tohle vypadá dobře pro G2, to vypadá dobře pro G2. Paranoia dobrá, Zonia dobrá od Zeusa, ale pome, zabijte Vi! Skurvený GA, pojď! BB, pome! Let's go! Mají dobrý draft, kámo, oni legit ne. Ta Nocturne bude 1, 2, 3 ban Nocturne příští hru. Nocturne 100% bump, by the way. Let's go, G2!
In the middle of that, use the darkness to hide the Orianna in the brush as T1 went to off board and catches them out completely unaware.
Kámo, nemůže toho Barona...
So much better this time around with the small adjustments that they made from game number 1. Zeus does have his teleport ready here, but
he's not going to go for it.
You have to think that it's still going to be a G2 Baron.
You said it in game 1, Kobe.
Bomber.
In Berlin, looking to get themselves to one-on-one against T1 in this quarterfinals qualification match.
Sleduj. Tady, kámo, jak Nocturne zaultí, dívej, co oni nemůžou nic dělat. Zeus jde in, což je dost divný, že jde in. Nocturne okamžitě zaultí a oni nemůžou nic. Jak flashnul nic. Oni se bojí, dívej. Jak to chňaplovaj.
Using that ultimate clears out two members and G2 constantly rotating the spotlight to block spells, block abilities until Broken Blade is just able to take over.
Teď to reálně, teď jak už vyhráli tady ten fight, tak to reálně vypadá, že teď příští fight vyhraje, kdo vyhraje příští fight, vyhraje hru. Ale T1 to můžou taky vyhrát na příští fight, hej? Co mají flashe, mají flashe teď všichni T1. Ale Kajsička teďka může poukovat, actually nemůžou to vyhrát, protože oni mají level advantage. Level 16 Orianna, level 15 Hansama. Oni mají tak velké level advantage. To je comeback, jak hej, oni kde získali tolik levelů, kámo. 2 levely na midu, 2 levely na AD. Co?
All reset. Broken Blade was adding pressure in the mid lane.
To vypadá dobře, tohle vypadá hodně
dobře. G2 have a minute and a half of this Red Bull Baron power play to really try to put the screws into T1.
Kamo, jak Lost to vypadalo. BB, já jsem se tam smál, BB může dávat meditaci, nebo nesmál, ale poukazoval jsem, že BB dává meditaci a pak comeback.
On a very iconic champion for him, the Ahri here. So I think that is going to be one of T1's main goals, to get the death cap for Faker and then
teď máme dobré drafty, máme super dobrý draft, máme Zoniu na kapsoli, máme flashe.
Are looking to close the loop here on T1. You know, they already have topside taken care of with the inhibitor. Now with the Baron buff, it's very easy to 4-1 split push.
A hry tam overlordovala Jaxe, aby Jax pushoval deep, což je annoying. Že my teďka, někdo by měl jít, my nemáme TP, takže nikdo nemůže jít defendit Jaxe. My bychom tady chtěli vzít inhibitor, ale nemůžeme kvůli tomu, že Jax pushuje. Tady kvůli tomu, že Jax pushuje tam, kde je, tak kvůli tomu tyho nemůžeme prostě reálně brat víc než jeden turret.
That ward had my heart in my mouth for a second because you could see it. Zeus TP's in, catches a couple of stragglers off the reset. G2 will just take a tier 2 in the bot lane. 4,000 gold lead for them as well. 3 items on Hansama alongside that Seeker's
tak pojďme se na goldy. Nefunguje jim overlay.
The king has got his crown. Death cap completed for Faker. It may be heavy, but Faker was the one that stepped up at MSI in that 5-game series to deny G2 Game 5. Will it be Faker again to deny G2 a chance of making quarterfinals today?
Solo. Ty vole, jako vyhrát v 5v5 fight je hrozně těžký pro T1, jako reálně hrozně těžký. No cap.
With the small changes that they made, they're so much more durable, and you see not only the Sterix Gauge that was on Yike here on this Nocturne.
Wait, Mickey flashed into a wall and hooked?
Never seen that before, eh?
No. I think he was looking for the flash.
I never saw what he did actually. It's just crazy.
Back to Yike though, he's also got a Guardian Angel. So, you know, Yike is going to be able to go deep, and Caps has been able to stay so safe with his Zhonyas in the back line, just constantly providing so much threat. So we'll see here. You even have another stasis built by Hansama. It's just so durable for G2. They're just bullying them.
Solar Flare, Hansama dodges, only gets slowed. Broken Blade goes in with an arm only onto Ona. Zeus.
Ne, Jax flank! To si nepolídali! To si nepolídali tu Vardu! OK, umře jenom 2 lidi. 3 lidi, OK. Come on, oni si nepohlídali Vardu behind! Zeus!
Davy Jones's locker. Faker will take it. T1 will take the bite.
Mickey is gone 6 feet under, but G2 cannot fathom.
Oni ho budou prodlužovat, aby umřel co nejpozději, protože Drak je za minutu a Baron je za minutu. Dívej. A Mickey se šel zabít. To je normální strategie, to není jako to, není DM.
To follow him around, and Mickey knows he's a dead man. It actually is strategically sound to delay the Nautilus death for a longer death timer there. So they actually even hurt them further, knowing that he is a dead man walking, chasing him around, but it's all about the teleport.
Behind borci.
Right before the tower goes down.
Yeah, he's Broken Blade goes on towards Owner, but it's Faker as he starts to
Aby by šel moc deep a Kapsy už napolkovaný.
And it's Hansam who's basically dead to rights as this play starts off.
The teleport flank gets right behind him. Their back line has to scramble. Both Hansama and Caps have nothing left here. Even though Owner fails to flash over the wall and isn't able to go get Caps, they do chase down Hansama, and the Dragon's Soul is theirs to set up. Wait, Zeus has hiding once again. Look at him.
You can see Mickey's only
Mají force hit, oni mají force hit. Kurva, oni to smajtli s force hitem.
They're looking up towards the top side. Zeus caught out with the paranoia, gets the counter strike, but then as well the killing instinct coming in from Hansama.
Dead, ale co s tím uděláme?
The rest of T1 trying to come back to defend their
Co s
top
tím
lane,
udělají?
but Zeus will be down before they can get there. G2 find one.
Co s tím uděláme? Co s tím uděláme?
They go mid, Kobe. They can hear your call.
Co s tím uděláme? Máme 6 grabů, actually. Můžeme vzít triple inhib. Triple inhib, to je mega po piči. A že bychom teď siegeovali, to nemůžeme moc siegeovat, ne? Top lane se spavnul. Tohle by měl být Baron pro nás, hej? Nemá TP. Tohle je free Baron. A bude mít triple inhib. Tohle bylo huge, že kyčli Zeuse. Oner to nesmí smajtnout. Oner! Ty kurva! Ty kurva!
He keeps T1 in the game, and G2 just couldn't dot their I's and cross their T's.
Owner has been a beast.
Já se omlouvám, že jsem zprostej, ale tohle bylo jediné, co nemohli udělat. Ta hra by byla von, triple inhib Baron. Proč tam nikdo nešel Hex Flash over the wall? Ult, zone, proč Mikix nezónoval Onera, proč Gnar nezónoval Onera, proč ho tam nechali přijít? Oh! Ďák zase! Kurva! Zeus! A on nedostává damage! Zeus!
Will help him take out his enemy jungler. Hansama trying to survive here. Zeus has to call off the chase, but T1 once again hold on to the game.
Tady je to úplně... Kajsa potřebuje Void Stuff. Ale proč nikdo nezónoval tu Vi? Tam prostě fakt reálně stačil Broken Blade, Mikix, jump over the wall, Hex Flash over the wall, ten Baron by byl náš.
Just barely able to get in towards the pit. And you see it here in the team fight, right? Faker goes in, good charm, the shockwave is great.
Zeus dává 1v9 každou hru. Čau Jirko, čauko. Fandím někomu, nebo se mi to zdá? Fandím. Fandím G2. Fandím v Evropě.
The layering of the Leona ultimate into Zeus Jax jumping onto the backline there was so big, got them so much space, and then the chase down there as well, getting the extra couple ones you can see.
Jirko, kdy jsi se naposledy vydal s Alkanem?
They are to extending this series, but you're never fully there against T1.
Se musím někdy stavit zase za Alkanem do Prahy. Kdy točky? Ne, borci tady nejsou točky. 2 dny zpátky, to je cool, to je mega cool.
Faker does any flanking wards. G2 have to do their due diligence here and clear out as many as possible. Double Supers pushing in for the next minute and a half for G2. Zeus though an absolute monster so far this series.
Hele, potřebujeme teďka, reálně teďka potřebujeme Eldra asi, hej. Problém je teďka, že Jax je nesmrtelný, potřebujeme voice staffu na Oriana. Oriana Kajsa potřebuji postavit voice staff, protože prostě Jax je nesmrtelný, on má tolik magic resistů. Faker tady furt ultí, aby hledal. Ale máme triple inhib, tady to bude Elder eventuálně, bude Elder. S těma triple inhibitorama to měl by to být Elder, hej, tohle by... Kajsa W poke, ale potřebujeme fakt ty void staffy na Kapsovi, na Hanzovi. Tady prostě to minutu tady budou farmit a budou mít 6 itemů, to je problém. Všichni budou mít 6 itemů. Tady nic neuděláme. Typy. A oni zaultili Nautilusa. Dobrá, Oriana ult. OK. Back off. Nemají ultimátky, pome Elder. Reset na Eldra, pome, borci.
They just cannot be.
Pome.
Are so good. The waves are still crushing in, but Zeus is standing tall, the difference maker for T1 once more.
40 vteřin a nemají mají Ahri, Jhin, Leona. OK. Nebudou mít ultimátky, ale my taky ne. Oriana bude mít ult, ne? Jo, bude. Nocturne má ult? Jo. Kajsa má, Gnar má, Nautilus nebude mít ult. Hej, tady by to měl být Elder, A mají void staffy, Kajsa a Oriana mají void staffy. Nebo jako Crypto Bloom, a.k.a. void staff. Hook, one shot, pome! To byl tak už! Hook again! Leona je squishy! Počkej. Hans, to jsi musel flashnout! To jsi musel...
And G2 don't know what hit him. T1 are forever clutch and G2 are finding
Jak to zas našli? Jak to zas našli ten engage? Jak Caps one shot? Co? Když mají Zonie. On udělal ten trik Vi flash ult udělal. Tady je, hej, on je trik z Vi, včera mi to Karzi vysvětloval, že ty když ult flashneš, tak není vidět animace. Vi neměla flash, když to použila, ne? Doslova. Nebo? Ne, on flashnul předtím, aha. Hej, tak jak nezareagoval flash, Zonia.
Inhibitor turrets are the only thing blocking them in Europe against a double buffed up T1 that have been relentless at denying you in this game.
That was crazy. The face check there, then owner flashes away and they use the
2 minuty Elder.
To jump on
Bude, všichni budou mít 6 itemů, hej? Všichni budou mít 6 itemů.
The Guardian Angel and Sterix for Yike, the double Zonias for both Caps and Hansama. T1 just keep on assassinating them.
OK, nemá flash. Teď mi vysvětli proč. Proč je tam nechají step upnout tady? Capsito. Capsito.
A minute left on the Elder Drake. 2:20 on the Baron.
Ty vole, Capsito, bráško. Minutu Elder, oni, hej. Víš, co je problém, že oni teď forcnou dive. Teď nesmí fightit, jenže problém je, že já věřím tomu, že T1 jsou good enough, že teďka prostě divenou. Že forcnou dive.
Team One can just start to look at Nexus turrets off this wave.
Oni to prostě forcnou.
You've got a GA on Gumayusi, you've got Faker with the Spirit Rush, the curtain's open. I don't think G2 is getting a second act. The dive onto the backline by Yike, but immediately
A on zas ne, Zony!
assassinated on the back, and T1 are just ripping them to shreds. T1 absolutely melting G2 under their Nexus towers. History doesn't repeat itself, but it's down
Zonia,
low,
Flash.
right? It's another Friday. It's another T1 win.
Either in the Jhin that Elk has been prioritizing or in their jungle from Wei. So I think bringing Shun back in feels like they're going to try and shift back over towards a lot of the more carry-oriented picks that Shun has been renowned for, and that Wei has some,
Rumble
but not to the
Vi,
same extent as
Gnar.
And they've been pretty open that both Shun
Billy,
have been
Bin,
sharing
Knight,
scrims
Jun,
at
Elk
different
on.
times. So both of them playing with the
Tyva, tak bych byl překvapený, jestli PSG něco uhrajou, hej?
That will actually be insane. You know, Kingler or Nidalee comes out here.
Tady je to celkem jasný, hej?
It would be super.
Tady mi to přijde celkem jasný.
But not really the way that this meta has gone, whereas at MSI, both of those were very prominent picks.
For PSG on the other side, you're looking at Betty, you're looking at Maple, both of whom are having very good tournaments so far. Also, Woody on Engaged Champions is a force to be reckoned with. So that's where my eyes are really focused. I think Azure is a serviceable...
Ale Billy taky nehrajou teďka dobře, hej? Billy teďka taky to trochu čoukujou.
Alright, Yone or Aurora here. You actually have to give one of the two over. Both of those
Yone,
have been
Aurora,
highly
no.
prized
Aurora je
power
taky
picks,
mega broken,
solo
ale
picks.
přijde mi víc broken než Yone. Ale zase Baniona, no.
Abych
si vyhonil
Oni to trají.
Clienteln donáty 69 korun českých, Gigabin.
Gigabin. Díky, Lantern,
And this is
děkuju.
actually what we gotta trade like this
Aurora
before
proti
game
Yone
was
trade,
earlier
hej?
this tournament as
Mně
well,
přijde Aurora
where
víc
we
OP
got
než Yone,
the
ale tak.
Yone first pick and the Aurora counter, and the Aurora actually on top.
ty
I
vole.
think I want to say it was Cream being able to play in that mid lane because you do have a lot of control. You're able
Psal
to
si někdy v
back,
all
and
chatu v
I
pro
think
play,
that
určitě.
Aurora as well,
Určitě, ale
while she
nepamatuju
has
si
a
to.
lot of great utility in her kit, her scaling on her ratios is absolutely insane as well. So I'm not surprised to see Billy going towards this.
Kdo bude
One,
v
because it can
semifinals?
match up into the
Nevím,
Yone fairly
nevím.
well. But two, you also get that flexibility
Nevím.
where you can put it top if PSG don't take the Yone here.
Feels like PSG have to take the Yone,
Yeah, I
right?
agree. Yeah.
Give it either to Azure or to Maple.
Musí vzít Yoneho, no.
See how well you can do. Maple's played it once already, of course, here at World so far. Alongside that, are you looking towards jungle? Skarner's already been removed, Vi's already been removed. Do you want
Yone, to bude zase Yone, Sejuani,
Jax,
Jax, bez tak. Což je, myslím, Jax nelíbí tam. Ale je to dobré, že to máš 1, 2, 3 dobré.
Sejuani is always instant lock with a Yone. The very straightforward melee synergies there to lock up the Suns. Really puts that pressure on a lot of the matchups where the Yone does rely so much on these E trades.
Shun,
Pop
okay.
the E, go in, put a bunch of pressure on your opponent, but you have to throw the Sejuani, it turns it into a whole new level. The next kind of mind game, though, that has emerged that I actually liked what FlyQuest did when they gave it over was that they know that if you're going to go into this style, you are going to be committing to some melee short-range compositions, very often dive compositions, and then you can try and craft counter dive or large AoE
Co je tohle zas?
answers to that. It is very dangerous, of course, but
Okay,
I actually do
who
think
was
the
the
Aurora
toughest
was a good
opponent
place
you
to start.
faced on a bot
Mluví anglicky nebo ne?
and who
Yeah,
you
with the
consider are
Wukong
the
again,
best
kind of
free
that more
bot lanes
carry-oriented
in the
pick
world
that we were
right
talking
now?
about potentially coming through for Shun, and I think it facilitates
Nah,
well
tam je.
in the hey,
boring.
I'm going to use the Aurora ult to group everyone
Boring.
up, and then Wukong comes in and just swings that staff around and knocks everyone up. So a nice little combo for BLG, and I think this
Jax,
is definitely
Wukong,
a
oni
shift
vzali
away
Jaxa
from what
away,
they came
Wukong,
into the
Aurora,
last couple of
Jax.
games with. This feels a very different style, and at least one that BLG
Popy
have
tady je
already
good, no.
identified that meta
Proti
shift.
Jaxovi, proti Wukongovi. Popy top.
A
nebo Popy support. Kennen top, ok. Tohle je Wukong, Jax, Aurora. Já nevím, ty Billy mají fakt divný piky, kámo. Jako Bin je mega dobrý Jax, jo? Don't get me wrong. Jax, Bin s Jaxem je jediný Jax, kterýmu věřím. Na Worlds jediný, možná ještě Zeus. Wukong pro Juna. Wukong je takový LPL pick, ale LPL miluje Wukonga, kámo. Oni hrajou Wukonga vždycky. Aurora je broken, na midu je to takový scaling midář. Do Jonáše a jej.
And so you see stuff like this, you know, like the utility of the Ash Arrow getting banned or the Kai'Sa follow-up, or you can also start to think about things like Ezreal that have more mobility that can try and play around that.
Kalista is also the one that stands out to me that he could be trying to eye up for. Just take that on this next rotation, and even then it opens up for Renata too. So
doufám, že tady všichni zítra budete na Fnatic. Zítra, hoši, Fnatic, Weibo je mega důležitý, protože jestli Fnatic prohrajou, jedou domů. Zítra máme na sobě dresy Fnaticů a fandíme všema 10 palcama. Prstama.
The Kalista and Renata were two of those big picks that they went like to go from the past.
BLG actually decided to ban away the Kalista themselves, now pick some more AoE for the team fight in the form of the Rel. Elkanon could look towards something like the Lucian Nami that has served them well in the past, but is a little bit susceptible to
Měl jsem mít zítra sex, ale řekl jsem jí, že hraje Fnatica nemůžu. Totálně respektuju, honestly, a doufám, že ta ženská to respektuje taky. Jestli ne, tak...
I do think though, this is an angle where you could just go back towards the Jhin. Like I wasn't a big fan
of PSG mají Rel.
It just felt like you didn't have any supplementary damage, but you've got it in
PSG mají Rel, hej? Rel, Kennen, Sejuani, Yone, se mi docela líbí. Já jsem zmatený. MF jsem si říkal, že by tady byla dobrá do těch melee jumpů. MF je vždycky dobrá do melee jumpů. MF Leona, spíš Alistar, aby tam chtěli proti Kennenovi. Alistar by to byl dobrý do Kennena a do Rel. A oni vemou Leonu anyway, holy moly. MF Leona, jako makes sense, makes sense. Jo, Renata by to byla good, no. Ziggs ne, brácho. Ziggs ne. MF je good. To je easy hun jako trenér? To byl ten Azir One Trick, ne?
And I don't know if Betty wants to answer with his own AoE.
The biggest of clusters we're going to have. These team fights will be a big bang. For sure.
Ale máte moc magic damage, musíte mít AD. Ezreal je taky moc magic damage. Kámo, ten Merc zvalí jak blázen. Ujujujujujujoj, ten Ezreal tam podle mě není good, hej? Tady to chtělo nějaký...
I will say too, because we actually were casting this series at MSI, and the same setup was there, where Betty gave an interview with PentaQ where he was talking about Elk, and specifically Elk on the Lucian, is the AD carry that everyone wants to be, you know, aspires to be, has so much respect for Elkanon as a bottom lane. And he really showed up and
Zaya by to bylo fajn, no. Ale není to tak jednoduché hrát Zaju do Wukonga, Jaxe, Aurory.
And I mean, Betty will also be very familiar with them, right? Played on RNG, Rogue Warriors, back when Elk was still
Co udělá Gigabit na top lane? Se tak trošku bojím, že toho Kennena rozmačká na sračky.
Having this Ezreal at least gives him a chance to try and like arcane shift out of this bullet cyclone of Weirdine that's going to be coming his way on BLG side. So he can have a major performance coming into this game if he's able to keep himself safe.
Kind of a bullet hell experience for both the carries in this game. For BLG, currently sitting at 1 and 2, performing well below expectations so far at Worlds 2024. PSG looking to add another name to the list of teams they have defeated over the years. BLG, well, PSG were very close to doing it against BLG at MSI.
Jako vidíš, Fnatic versus Weibo. 70% na výhru má Weibo, 30% Fnatic.
As we go on to the Rift for the third time today.
OK. Bude lane swap. Já doufám, že když odejdu teď na záchod, že nikdo neumře. Fakt doufám hodně.
Such a legendary player on the international stage, and he's been given the pick of the tournament. That pick of the tournament, the Yone, of course, was not free, did come at the cost of giving over Knights Aurora, but definitely will be looking at Maple, especially with the support of a Sejuani jungle. at his back to make some big plays.
We'll be looking at the mid lane, but you guys need to remember to look and log into your Riot account at lollysports.com and watch Worlds live to earn exclusive Worlds emotes, icons, and capsules. Get yourself all those little trinkets, all those little toys. I know I'm a bit of a completionist myself. If I see something shiny on the ground, got to pick it up.
I've never met more of a grinder than you. I'm not gonna lie. The second you have something in your sights.
My Diablo 4 character already like Paragon 200. It's fine. It's okay, please, Rob. Please validate me.
No, look, this is actually an intervention.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I didn't realize. My mistake. BLG setting up down towards the bottom side. Did look for a moment like they might lane swap, but instead they were just trying to get bush control in the top side. Often we do see a ward placed when you do this. I think Knight may have placed his ward in that bush. Actually, he's gone over towards the Razorbeak. So what you often want to do is, if you're playing melee into ranged, is you want to try and get a ward into one of the bushes to make it harder for the range to drop minion aggro in that top lane. And it looks like Azure should be able to continually harass there as Bin and him trade towards the top side.
I think he should be relatively okay as Bin still to get pushed, just thanks to that counter-strike. Yeah. It works out very well. We saw it from BB on the opposite side in the last game, where even with the Nari, he couldn't really do too much. So Bin going to be fine, and okay, Woody not quite been able to get the crash down there, but with the push on top and also slowly starting to come through, I'd imagine in mid lane as well. I think you're going to be fine as Shun to move up towards this top side and test for Scuttle, which is really where you want to be.
Na ten mid matchup jsem hodně zvědavej, Aurora versus Shun. Podle mě by Aurora měla vyhrávat, ne? Hodně. Nebo? Aurora bez Graspu. Na topu se hraje Grasp. Na midu se nemusí hrát Grasp, hej?
More attention towards Bin and topside, and he is on his legendary Jax. But of course, with both of those junglers sharing scrims with the team and playing this whole time, very could be evened up by Shun. Wukong, notoriously looking for the level 6 though, so you would generally just
Grasp vždycky better do melee.
A bit more
no, záleží.
On the side of the Sejuani until the level 6 comes in, and the Wukong a bit more scaling and damage threat, of course.
And that was the thing on the upside when we saw Shun coming in. He kind of put a lot of focus on towards that bottom side for a lot of their games, especially when you look at like their series against LNG and that. So I think for BLG, it's going to be a case of trying to see if they can have that access to the bottom side. I don't think they can really get Woody, as Woody's, or sorry, Betty, I should say, because Betty has that arcane shift, but Woody will be way more vulnerable to that sort of gank, especially with the lockup that On can provide. So I think BLG more going to be looking towards, say, the level 6 with those potential ganks, but also Void Grubs as they start to come through that second round.
See Jun kind of pathing down towards that bottom side to get the Scuttle Crab. Junja has taken control over the top side. Bin had to TP back as he was harassed by Azure. Not too much surprising in this early game. The MF managing to get push into a Ezreal lane. It's kind of to be expected. She has a lot of damage in the early game, and obviously more she gets towards that Bloodthirster too.
Yeah, definitely a fearsome lane there with the
Dneska se nehraje fajn, ne?
Of course, worth noting
Dneska navíc polorozensko končím. Každodenní 10hodinový streamy se ruší. Dneska si dávám volno. Jakmile dojde Worlds. Co? Proč píšete D2 a otazníky? Aha. To říká, já si neříkám streamer. Hej, kdy naposledy jsem řekl, že jsem streamer lidu? Marbles bude po téhle sérii.
That's pretty crucial though, because you like having those solo laners hit 6 just in time for like Void Grub fights or anything like that. So not having that, not having that flash available for that combo is going to be a bit sad.
Kombičko, ale Leona to uteče kombičkem taky. A, neuteče. Ale počkej. Okay.
Nice job by Woody to get the crash down on towards On, trying to base in PSG, hoping that Shun would be in position, but Junja's already there, and the value at this early stage for the Sejuani getting multiple CC chains off is just perfect for PSG.
Yeah, the timing was so nice too, with Junjia heading down, finish up the Gromp, and the flash from Woody. He has had so many set-up plays for some of the biggest moments for PSG. The first blood acquired for PSG, and in the area that they want it, yeah, the Sejuani is the one to actually get
PSG vaří, no akorát, že musí vařit víc.
Trying to use Junjia as an exit, but still very happy to actually cash in, and very nice gold lead for PSG in the opener.
And a lot of that control that PSG got in their series against BLG at MSI was through that bottom lane. So starting to see a repeat performance is Knight in trouble.
Seal going in.
Má ult, ne?
Jump away, can use the between worlds to dash out, but that's an ultimate exchange in the middle.
To je crazy ten champ.
Way less threatening with that
To je
ultimate
crazy ten
Also
champ.
the fact that you get mid push means you get to move over straight away towards these void grubs. And look at Shun, he's not even close to that level 6 and been in the same boat, so he's a little bit off.
Dá se to ganknout, no. Invisibilita, skok, druhý skok, přes celou linku skok, flash.
No problem. And if you look at the domino effect of some of those plays, guess what a mid-prio for Yone could turn into? It's more ganks on bottom side. Jinjia could go down back bottom side, as well as possible Maple Roam. So there are a lot of good things building up towards consecutive plays, since not only On used summoner spells in the bottom side, but it was also Elk in their attempts to evade.
Also just putting Knight on edge a little bit, right? Making him burn his ultimate is so important because Knight has so consistently been a stalwart of the LPL. I think if people only follow International League of Legends, they won't really see Knight as this dominant character. But he's a 5-time LPL champion, tied first in LPL championships. He's been at Worlds 4 times, and although the furthest he's ever made is semi-finals, he's widely regarded as one of, if not the best mid laner in the world, depending on the time of year.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely the best mid laner in the LPL and is the kingmaker in the LPL. He's been in the last 6 LPL finals. He has won 4 in the last finals, and is now starting to tie people for most LPL titles with the likes of Xiaohu and these guys. Like, adding a Worlds title to this guy just makes him the most decorated LPL player of all time.
Kámo, Xiaohu je takový dědeček, ne? Už čínský dědeček.
In the 1-2 matches, right? Because this is not where BLG expected to be. It's kind of where PSG expected to be, as Betty should be able to go
to není dobrý engage, ale. Od Leony. Nemá flash. Straight up dead. Yo!
Looking for the engage, thinking Shun would back him up, but he was left to his
To
own
byl úplně
devices.
divný engage, jako kam engageoval.
Well, the thing is, one of the players that has been involved in some of these Worlds-winning rosters was Junja, and he's keeping it going.
Goes in with the Glacial Prism. The cleanse was available for Alchemy. Holds it. The bullet time opens up. Shun going in with the Cyclone, looking to make a Tempest. He'll take one. Junja falls. Woody trying to get the CC onto Shun to keep Betty alive. Shun holds it and dies in the end. Tried to flash away, but Betty puts him in the dirt.
And PSG, the reason they keep forcing on this bottom side is because all the setup work that they had done, all of these extra advantages going into it.
Ale byli poslední, hej, jako toto je jednička z Číny. Borci, byli jsou jednička z Číny, ale oni vyhrajou Čínu, to stejný, Hanwha vyhrála LCK, byli nehrál dobře na Worlds. Nejlepší čínský tým je LNG a nejlepší korejský tým, legit, zatím jak to vypadá, je Gen.G nebo T1. DK a Hanwha to chokujou. Jo, že my tady máme 3 týmy, které jsou potenciál finalisti, a to je LNG, T1 a Gen.G. Jo, je to fakt jako... Ona se prostě změní meta, hraje se to jinak, víš jak.
Kotor potržítko máter donátit 100 korun českých. Točka.
Vole, Quattro Matru, díky za kilečko. Vy už mi donatujete peníze, i když jsem na streamu? TES? Já jsem zapomněl na TES, no. Top Esport ale nehrajou taky tak dobře, hej? Top Esport, tak já si taky top nejsou top 3. Myslím si, že furt T1, Gen.G a LNG jsou lepší než Billy a Top Esport.
For PSG Talent. BLG need to find some way back into this game, or PSG Talent can just
Bin prohrál 30 CS, on Kenny je mega dobrý do Jaxa, hej? Ale sleduj, Jax zo solo kill eventuálně, XD. Eventuálně tam bude solo kill.
BLG trying to get mid control so they can fight over this Scuttle Crab and the Grubs that come up in 40 seconds time, but PSG are using the time to take a Drake for themselves. They know they can then go across and even try to catch Knight out, who'll get the blast cone, but Junja's gonna follow him across.
2K gold div pro PSG, kámo, to je crazy.
Caught out with the Glacial Prism, True Shot Barrage coming out as well, and Knight now has to invest that summoner to escape the clutches of Junja.
So much damage could have come through, and that's a key summoner spell again. They still have 3 people on bottom side. You see Leona coming to hover, but Knight just has to stand and watch. Look at all these minions dying to the tower. He's waiting for On to come
Ty
escort him
grubíky,
into
drak.
safety. But another very smart
Ty vole.
play here from PSG to cut off more resources from the hands of BLG. So many minions dying.
And Funnel Betty, who has just been such a monumental carry for this PSG roster as well. Like, after he left the LPL and came in towards the PCS, this guy was an absolute beast, and he's only continued to show up for this roster. Now that he's on 2-0, he's going to have the Triforce completed off of the 3 set as well. He's in prime position to play out of his mind to try and carry PSG across the line. Plus, again, you don't have a huge amount of lockup that can really keep him in check. He has the cleanse for anything that On has, then has the arcane shift and a
Liandry's na
flash for so much
Cannanovi.
what BLG are trying to bring to the table.
Zajímavý.
Exactly. One of the few AD carries that doesn't completely pull out their hair and scream that an Aurora is on the enemy team. Actually has some options, some playability. Plus, as you can see, PSG obviously targeting Knight over and over. Multiple ganks towards him, catching him in transition, constantly trying to burn the flash, take away resources from that Aurora, make sure it does not become a nightmare for them later on.
The one they're going to have to watch over these next few minutes. Still a while before the next Drake, and we saw grubs exchanged for denying Knight a couple of waves in the bot side, so it's 3 grubs apiece for both these teams, but a TP coming in by PSG. They know Knight has no flash. Wait in the darkness, in the tri-bush. Will Knight expect it? Maple here to catch the wave. On and Shun on their way across as well. You can see the ward placed there. Ginger and Woody looking for the invade towards the red buff. They are pushing mid, they are pushing bot. Betty here to join the battle. Maple gets the first move, can look for a flank here with the Fate Seal, dashes forward, unbinds his soul on down to half HP. The Solar Flare goes in with a bullet time, and that's 2 locked up, and Woody's the first to fall. Maple was distracted by Knight. Betty dashing back in between worlds. Knight can look for more. Maple dives in with a Fate Seal, but BLG will happily take the triple for Elk.
And just like that, it crumbles in PSG's
donáty
fingers.
98
It almost
korun
turns to dust. A
českých.
triple kill for Elk is huge. That almost brings them back to gold parity. Still a lead for PSG, but you have to be so careful when over-chasing into the jungle like that, into so much AoE. The idea was there, but the execution was off.
Yeah, going into those tiny corridors is just perfect for the BLG composition, and PSG pay the price. Bin still relatively low, and Aja snuck in here, but there's so many members of BLG collapsing.
Shun cleared out the ward. See on his way up as well. TP coming in as PSG. Well, they're not going to do anything. He's dead. Knight takes it.
Kotor potržítko máte donátit 100 korun českých. Konečně
that was
klid.
just good timing from BLG. You could look at the rest of the map, and PSG hadn't set up their waves to really be a threat anywhere. There's still slow push on bot side for Maple, and that wave disintegrated for Betty. So BLG getting time alone with this turret. Maybe in a position to match on towards this top our bot side play, but will still be first tower, I believe, for PSG.
No, I think BLG take it. They have Demolish, right? They have 3 people in the Demolish from Bin. They should be able to take this one first. Maple trying to match, as you say, on the bottom side, but BLG with the TP in. Invests a lot to make sure they take the first turret. And it does give them that gold infusion they were looking for.
CORTES 4 donátit 50 korun českých, to je pohoda.
Offensively up to the
Vy jste
top
zase
side,
začali donatit, protože jsem
steal
nebyl.
away the red buff in addition to that top tower, and just chaining the objectives here. This is well ahead of the timer for the Dragon too, so they can even match up for that as well.
You can see the flip on the Mastercard lane economy snapshot when it comes towards the goal.
Co se zase stalo?
He has no teleport, so the fact that Aja has walked here and BLG see Aja
In na red
here,
buffu.
they should know. All right, fine. PSG, you have the numbers. We're just going to keep bin splitting on bottom side. You can have a Rift Herald, which will at least be a nice takeaway.
Yeah, get more gold back for Bin, who is 24 CS down, as expected, in a ranged into melee matchup in the top lane that was left to its own devices, but he's only about 250 gold out of pocket right now. Woody looking towards top lane, though. Knight does have that between worlds in his flash, probably about 10 seconds away from coming off cooldown. He'll respect it and back away.
Mám mega zásadní otázku, mám si do další kofein, když jsem už měl 2 kafe. 2 dvojitý kafe, když jsme u toho. Jo?
Yeah, I think he's respecting it. On it reset, shouldn't it reset, and then actually starts to shift kind of over towards mid to cover that mid lane play. So it's a nice read from PSG, and Knight just not wanting to give over that little bit more. We'll just stick in the bush and pick up this wave as it crashes. But look at the quick move, Rift Herald and Toe. They're going to try and crack mid lane for this PSG.
Zachum, co bych neudělal pro stream? Co bych neudělal pro stream?
Apply a bit of pressure with the flank. He'll catch out Shun, who goes to that decoy. The clone, the Rift Herald did get a charge down. Quite to take the tower, but it does.
Goly jsou skoro even, Yone ahead. Problém začne být bin za chvilku.
Wait until Knight disappears so we can put
Skůj,
threat onto the tier 2 while also keeping threat on towards Dragon. PSG playing at the map well right now.
BLG now have a Bloodthirster and a BF sword on Elk. He was so far delayed in this game. Now even Stevens in terms of gold with Betty. And if he is left at the back of a fight with no one threatening him, he is just.
To je pravda, actually, proč piju další Red Bull? Nebo další, proč piju Red Bull teď?
In League of Legends, just dodging every bullet you can.
Another big pivotal thing to look at in the setup for the next team fight is
proč ne? Mám už moc kofeinu.
Always so big, especially when the cannon does have flash. The effect of the flank coming in for the big team fight. And BLG have a lot of members that could do it, as Maple's making his escape here. On still chasing them.
Yeah, it really felt like they just wanted the ultimate out of him, right? It means that if you are going to fight around something, it becomes a bit easier. Make him burn that, has to wait for the cooldown, but PSG will use the fact that On is on the top side of the map to start themselves up a Dragon.
That's what I was going to say, is what is that something, right, for BLG, because there's no top tower to really put pressure onto. PSG are still holding on towards mid, they have push on bot, so it kind of was like a Hail Mary, it feels like nearly for BLG, to hope they could cross map something.
Jak PSG chcou vyhrát hru?
Pretty happy as PSG that
Pojďme se na to podívat.
everything there for just Maple's ult, which is 3/4 of the way, or sorry, about a third of the way done.
It's always interesting when a game gets to this sort of point, relatively even. 2 Drakes to PSG, a slight gold lead as well. And then you look at the comps, it's like,
Cannon se musí
can't
feednout.
really tell who scales better. It really comes down to execution, right? Like if Azure gets in without being exhausted, obviously he's going to rip through BLG. If the MF ult gets up and hits 3 people, obviously Elk's going to.
But they're always the most fun, right? Where you just get to see everything thrown in the kitchen sink and see who comes out on top.
And I know, you know, Yone's got the magnifying glass on him for the whole tournament, but I'm truly looking at Betty, and you guys were both correctly so.
Karzi říkal, že přijde na Fnatic, ne? Že se budeme spolíhat na Fnatic zítra. Cannon se potřebuje feednout. Yone se potřebuje, ale jako mají wombo combo. A musí nějak dát... PSG mají wombo combo, tady mají tier 2. OK. Tier 1 na botu, tier 1 na midu za tier 2. To je even trade, ale nemají TP teďka. A hlavně Maple dostane solo goldy, takže bude 1000 goldů ahead.
In the grand scheme of things, PSG Talon are still up in towers there, getting more gold, so it's a great spot for them to be in, and a huge amount of that obviously going in.
A pak mají wombo combo, jo? Reálně podle mě, jako když MF si zlomí ruce a dá angle, tak prohrajou. Byli, ale musí si jako zlomit ruce, což si nemyslím.
The outer ones are only 500 gold for your team. The secondary ones are 800 gold for your team. Plus there's an added benefit of the secondary ones are more funneled gold because more of it is local. So you get like more concentrated power, and what better place to concentrate that power?
100% true, but I will say we're going down this Animal Farm route. I feel like the mid lane towers are quite important as well. Now that PSG have managed to get one in response, obviously
MF skipla Essence River, to se mi líbí. Zrovna jako na MF tu manu potřebuješ s tím Essence Riverem, ale aby si farmil rychle. Ale když to skipneš a šetříš manou, tak máš mega damage.
How this next team fight turns out at Dragon, so then that vision could maybe be established by BLG.
Jak moc se v esportu používají pingy, to vidíš tu mapu, ne? Že tam pingujou furt. Non-stop pingujou. Vidíš, ne? To reálně, vy jste fakt chat, já vám to ukážu znova. Já vám pomůžu, jo? Tady tohle, na tohle se díváte 5% až 10%. Takže já to zamažu. Tohle nesledujete. Vy sledujete tady. Toto nesledovat. Toto se nesleduje, OK? Tady. Tady se sleduje toto. Toto se sleduje, toto. Ty sleduješ prostě tady jenom, tady a koukáš, co dělá, jaký hráč co dělá. OK? Tady se naučíš hrát hru, tady se naučíš predikovat a tady reálně se naučíš 90% hry. Protože pochopíš každou roli. To, že sleduješ tady ty miniatury, co dělají, tak ty prostě reálně pak budeš v soloku vědět, co bude dělat enemy topař, co bude dělat enemy support, co bude dělat enemy midař. Predikneš to. Proč sleduješ jen 5% obrazovky? No kámo, proto mě nasralo, když oni... tam bylo preview. Tam bylo preview, kde ty si mohl mít jenom minimapu. A ta minimapa byla přes celou obrazovku. To bylo tak super. Pamatujete si to někdo? Že jste si mohli vybrat, že sledujete jenom minimapu. To bylo úplně nádherný. A ta mapa byla přes celou obrazovku, viděl jsi tam všechno. Všechno, reálně jsi to viděl? Někdy by se zdíval prostě z vrchu. Bylo to hrozně dobré.
Knight then kind of moving on to bigger and better things on top esports as well, so I think there is definitely a little bit of a friendly rivalry.
Ale pozor, pokud budete sledovat disclaimer, pokud budete sledovat tady tohle, 95% zápasů, tak se tu hru naučíte tím stylem, že pak budete flamit všechny svý spoluhráče, protože budou dogshit a nebudou, uvidíte, jak prostě začnete chápat, proč jsou dogshit a budete vědět, co mají dělat a bude vás to tiltit, že to nedělají. To je disclaimer. Ten Kennen štípej. Takže budu jak ty, ano. For an avenue to approach. Bin looking to reset and get a TP in. Maple going to that Gromp to stack up his Q3. PSG still fighting over this Dragon. TP coming in from Azure as well. He's just finished the Shadow Flame. 2 items on the cannon. Bin will TP to the control ward down towards the top side of the fight. Jun is in the pit. Azure is behind them. There's a control ward there. Betty putting damage into the on right now. Jun going in with the Cyclone onto the back. Finds Maple but doesn't find Betty. Mysnutý ultimátky. Wukong musí flashovat. Wukong je dead. Yo! Yo! Ej, co se v té hře děje? Pánové, PSG, jo. 3-0 Ezreal. Ale proč to... Víš co, já nechápu, že ty čínský týmy to vždycky čoukou. Tohle je dobrý, že dá vizi, to dá vizi. Bin uses the Hexates to there to see the information. Woody diving in, and he stops Elp from putting under bullet time. The slicing Maelstrom on the back line as well. Knight's in the pit, but Maple puts it in at the dirt. Bin now going in for a little bit more, but can't land the counter strike onto Maple. Another is down on his fallen PSG. Are somehow beating BLG. They're running circles around them. Conquer again, right over the wall, and Maple. Tady jsem šokován a nevím, co jako mám říct. Já nechápu, že jako Billy hrajou tak špatně. Škoda ty MF ult. On tu MF ult si měl šetřit na to, až zabije. Kdyby si MF šetřila ult na to, až zabije, reálně ne. Flanknul by Kennen. To je čínská number one, ano. China number one. To stop the crash down hitting him. As soon as Woody hit him with the crash down, he gets bounced back by that wall. We're talking a matter of like 2 centimeters there.
And Betty evading the Leona ultimate on the edge of the Aurora ultimate, on the edge of the Misfortune ultimate. So much for PSG off the back of this, though. Now they can just take over. They're at 3 dragons. They have control of the entire rift right now.
And they got the stun as well onto Elk, who has the flash and will use it to dash away from any follow-up engage. Sun going in with the Cyclone, trying to make a Hurricane rip through PSG. They'll find one already stunned up.
Ezreal si vzal tier 2, ale na botu. Za support, a to je okay.
They take a tier 2. Maple looks for a little bit more. On lands the stun with the Shield of Daybreak. The weirding out from Knight for a little bit of damage as well. True shot barrage between the uprights of On and Knight, but still clips Shun's heals. The Baron remains for the next minute and 20 seconds for PSG, but right now they've called off the push.
And now it's 3 items on towards Betty. He's going to be able to reset and get even more. Look at the goal difference. Powered by AWS at the bottom of your screen. PSG have been playing immaculately in this.
Hextech Soula za 2,5 minuty, Jonáš je 2K gold ahead. Mají Vombo combo. Tady je strašně krásný, že PSG mají draft, který je strašně jednoduchý. Reálně PSG je fakt jednoduchý ten draft. Jo, že prostě ty zmáčkneš ultimátky a vyhraješ v podstatě. Nemusíš nic vymýšlet. V jednoduchosti je síla, to si pamatujte. Hlavně když nejste jako tak dobří jako třeba ty týmy, kteří jsou dobří.
I also think for a lot of people, this was kind of what they were hoping to see from PSG talent when they came into the play-ins. A lot of teams disappointed with their performance, where they didn't look as clean as they possibly could have. But here,
Cyclone again from Jun. True Shot Barrage coming out from Betty as well. Between worlds, Jun just locked up in it. He'll flash across. On falling low.
On je dead, ne? Ezreal zabije, kle. Zabil. Hej, oni prostě stompnují. Oni press ult to win. Holy moly, ta hra je over. OK, auto cleanu. No nic, tak to není over, protože tam wave clear od MF, ale vemu inhib. Komu co je? For winning that fight, Elk and Knight will try and defend the Nexus Towers, and PSG probably won't push for more. They don't invest the TB from Azure. They will retreat after finding that inhib. China number 1.
7,000 gold lead for the PCS #1 seed.
It is not just PSG pushing BLG. They are dismantling this team. The only good BLG play was actually the mess up of PSG Red Invade. That's the only benefit they actually had in this whole game. PSG have been running it from head to toe. Let's take another look at this. Even with this Sejuani ultimate,
jakoby borci. Já jenom chci podotknout, že pokud Billy prohraje, tak jsou out. Chápete to? Že pokud Billy prohrajou, tak number 1 Čína seed je out of the contest. Out of tournament. Jo, ne, balance. Woody to nenchtěl. Kennen zaútil moc fast. Pane bože, Kennen zaútil moc fast. Wow! Ježišmarja. Oh můj bože, Kennen, co tam udělal Kennen? Proč ultil tak brzo? On reálně 60%, 70% ulti misnul, protože ultil brzo.
Elk has the bullet time coming up in 7 seconds. Junja trying to heal himself back up in the jungle. Elk there makes it rain. Bin gonna try and get for the reset. Elk still full HP. Bullet time, no flash, no.
Však to tady zabije Elk, ne? Pokud nedostane Chain CC. Však co dělají? To bylo úplně obvious, ne? Že one-shotne toho Ezreala.
Bin wins those! Oh my goodness, he wins the 1v1 with Maple on Yone up on the top side of the map. He teleports back. He's actually able to finish it off and deny the Dragon Soul.
Tady chci vidět Kennena. Kde je Kennen? Kennen týpuje. A proč netýpnul sem ten Kennen? Proč týpuje tak daleko? A on ulti už tady! Hej, oni to normálně. To je takový to, vyhrávám, tak to čouku. Ale kolik je to gold diff ještě furt? Problém je, že Elk dostal 1000 goldů, pane bože, 1000 goldů. Wow, 1000 goldů, hoši, to je... Uf. 5k gold diff. Uf. Ty vole, nevím, no. Ale mají, hele, tady to vypadá, že to byli možná otočit, nebo měli by, ale, protože jsou lepší hráči, ale PSG mají mega dobrý draft, jako mají Wombo Combo. Mají Wombo Combo. Já jakoby nechápu ten Wukong Aurora pick midlane. Aurora je top až lepší, ne? Mají flashe teďka. Night Elk má flashe proti tomu enemy týmu. A oni, MF tady fakt musí hrát safe, aby nedostala engage, hej? Hasn't gone for the upgraded boots, so we need them on MF because you have that 4 itemy MF a MF má Rapid Fire. A Rapid Fire je mega důležitý na MF actually. Tady může zaultit dobře MF. Woody je straight up dead, oni to chokujou. Oni to straight up chokujou. Oni to chokujou! Pane bože! Ten stun na Kennena! Wow, kdo stunul toho Kennena? Kdo stunul toho Kennena? To byl MVP stun. To byl MVP stun, oni to vyhrajou. Ty vole, byli to comebacknou. No mě je. Leona stunula toho Kennena, když flashoval, to bylo OP. Tam to bylo hrozně good. Viděli jste, jak tam Kennen flashnul a dostal insta stun? To bylo game winning. Game winning. Game winning, game winning, game winning. Wow. MF dá 1v9 teďka, protože bude mít 5 itemů, kámo. MF si postaví Mo. Tady to není nerfnutý Mo, ještě ne, nebo je? Je to nerfnutý Mo? Buď G nebo Mo. Pokud je Mo nerfnutý G. Ta Rel to tady na Intela, hej. Oni všichni disengageovali a Rel flashuje. Byl kurz 10 na Billy, co? Co? Ten stun od té Leony? Ty vole.
Laughing a little bit, he knows he's getting away with this one.
Yeah, BLG fighting their way out of a very tough spot in this game. Now they're the ones with the push available, though. You mentioned all the towers and.
Ten Red Bull začíná fungovat. Cítím to. Cítím ten cukr a kofein v krvi.
On has his exhaust ready, so goal number 1 for BLG on mark the cannon. Always be on the same side as
MF, já nevím proč, ale MF je strašně zábavný champ. Kvůli té pasivce a kvůli tomu movement speedu.
To si děláš prdel?
To si děláš prdel?
Elkony potržítko 0 donátit 100 korun českých.
Mě bolí hlava, ne?
Na ty žilky na čele. V jakém případě pikuješ Kalistu?
Očividně Kalista je broken, protože má 10 winů, 1 prohru na Worlds. Každopádně Kalista v jakém případě můžeš piknout kdykoliv, pokud nehraješ proti Ashe nebo Dravenovi. Kalista nemá counter. ADC OP, ADC je v kompetitivu silný jak svině, no. V momentě, kdy celý tvůj tým ví, jak hrát kolem tebe, tak je AD carry broken, ano. Bohužel solo queue je docela dost jiná ta. Hej, počkej, ale to dává... Ta Aurora dá, co to bylo za damage, to jenom prošli tím hovnem. Supporti jsou hrozně squishy, protože jsou level 12 reálně, když jsou všichni level 18. Protože nechávají solo XP a IDčko, aby IDčko nebylo k hovnu. Protože XP jsou fakt důležitý. Oni ví o Binovi. Bin! Ty pičo, Bin. Dobrý flash elk! Bin! Kámo, OK, Bin, Jax, když hraje Bin Jaxe, tak to nevypadá balanced. Ale když to hraje kdokoliv jiný, tak je to useless. Vysvětli mě to. Vysvětli mě to. Kámo, vysvětli mě to prostě. Pane bože. Zeus taky good Jax. Bin je next level Jax. Zeus je OK. Zeusovi bych s Jaxem bych věřil Zeusovi, aby si to... Hele, jediný 2 hráči, co mají povolený hrát Jaxe na Worlds je Zeus a Bin. Binovi bych to blind pikoval a Zeusovi bych to jenom counter pikoval. Jenom counter pikoval.
puts him 6 feet under, and now BLG will open up on the second Nexus tower. Woody going back in, looking for Bin again, but Bin somehow still survives. PSG wiped away under their Nexus
Co si děláš, prdel? Kolik byl kurz na Billy? 8? Kámo, ale otřesný. Otřesný od Biny. Billy. Otřesný. Otřesný, blásne, otřesný, jako legit tohle je China number 1, jo? Pane bože, hej.
That would be a very different story, a very different start.
A little bit too seriously.
What goes through the mind of a competitor when they know they might be eliminated from something they've worked the whole year towards. And for some people, have worked like years on years on years. Like Maple's been at Worlds since 2013. And now, it may be his last dance. He said it in an interview that he was thinking about retiring. We don't know that for certain. But the way to go out if it is. You almost win game 1 and then you lose game 2 to BLG and it's just over.
Dane, dobrý zase, no, jinak dostaneš timeout, OK? Dobrý!
Made semi-finals, really pushed a lot of the LPL and LCK teams to the brink and is now not only this tournament but at MSI been very close to taking down BLG as well. It's heartbreaking, but we'll have to see as we get in.
My tady nepodporujeme žádné drogy, žádné drogy. Je to, zničí vám to život jako gamba, to vám říkám rovnou. Gnar a hry Rumble. Já to taky nepodporuji, ale jako nemluv o tom tady! Yone, Rumble a hry Gnar.
On red side here with a counter pick available to them, they were able to come into this one with a dub. They are not going to give you the option of the Yone or Aurora on blue side PSG. They are going to deny it, so they're going to cover their bases and kind of the...
Ne, asi oficiálně Resting Worlds a... no, nic, hej. Chat! Draft!
Otherwise you're just giving it over to PSG and they have the option. Nocturne is something we have seen first picked a couple of times today for G2. Obviously works really well alongside the Orianna, but then you are giving
Nico, a hry, Gnar, Yone, Aurora, Rumble. Dobrý bunny proti PSG, dobrý bunny proti PSG.
Because I think giving Shun that across could be a bit worrisome as well. They are hovering the Skarner here. I think Skarner does work well into Champions League 5, where it's a bit more telegraphed when you're going to go in and you can preemptively get off that Skarner ult, but I still think the Vi kind of a tier above it in my eyes.
Well, at least PSG did ban away Knight's Ahri, so the
Jax 1-2. No já bych, hele, Bin je jediný, komu věřím s Jaxem Blind, OK? To je jediný člověk, kterému věřím s Jaxem. Ani Zeusovi nevěřím na Blind Jax.
Bin's Jax, right? He's just like, hey, can we just pick Jax all the time? Because I'm really good at this champion. I can win us team fights later on if you just give me this champion, please.
And he just won that game.
No, I'm curious if they're trying to bait the Orianna pick.
Ale zase mohli by hrát Kennen a ten Kennen byl dobrý. Ten Kennen byl fajn, hej.
And this could work out very well when you've already got
Smolder blind.
Like available right now to be known, but I still think it's strong into some of the picks.
Nevím. Smolder Skarner mi přijde tak strašně dog shit, protože prostě jo, máš scaling, ale tvoje early game je tak useless. Nebo jako Skarner má dobrý early game damage, ale... Poppy top proti Jaxovi, OK. Ale ten Kennen top byl taky v pohodě, hej? Kennen top byl taky v pohodě.
And the other good thing about the Smolder is that it's flex pick here too, so you also don't have to fully give away, right?
And the Poppy pick I really like as well because it denies something like
MF Sejuani, Kai'Sa Sejuani,
because it's already going to be a
matchup
that's decent for Ashe in the top lane
ale
against
to je
the Jax,
Poppy
but
top,
it does
ne?
deny
Nebo
a lot
Poppy
of these
support?
other picks. Even things like the Kai'Sa can struggle because that steadfast presence can't block the ultimate, so makes things a little bit more difficult for Elcon when he wants to try and take these fights, but still got to go towards the Kai'Sa and still have that backline threat for what BLG are setting up as a dive.
All right, and then in protection bans, because Kai'Sa doesn't have the strongest of lanes, want to take away the Ashe, want to take away some of those bullies down there, and BLG drops some bans in it.
Good to still see the Jhin coming out from PSG. It's interesting because you kind of want something to bridge you towards your Smolder getting stacked up, right? You need a little bit of damage in the early game if you're going to take fights. Obviously, you also have the option to just try not to take the fights.
Bano hodně pomalu, tyjo.
I don't think that really is how either of these
Syndra,
teams
okay.
always play.
Syndra by byla asi good do Smolder, no. Ale tako LeBlanc je good, Zed je good, Vladimír je good, Syndra je good, I guess. Do toho Smoldera.
I think it's just the easiest takeaway in this position. And then I think it becomes a question of what do you want to see for Betty? Maybe it is just the MF to try and go for, hey, Skarner, grab into MF combo and something that can bully out of that bottom side. But no Kalista ban just yet. It's going to be the Renata problem instead.
Interesting too, because PSG are going to have to fit some AP into their composition. So, you know, you're also looking at the previous Rumble ban. The Kennen didn't really have the big Kennen moment that you wanted in the previous game. And so he's going to have to dig way deeper because the Aurora's banned, the Rumble's banned. We'll see how deep they go, or if they actually do want to swap the Smolder. Instead, the Tristana ban comes out here away from
Azure. I feel like I'm trying to remember this correctly, and I want to make sure I'm right before I say it. Udyr. How do we feel about Udyr top?
I think he just gets Poppy. I think he's fine with the Poppy, right? It's
you don't think the Poppy reflex?
I don't think you need to. I think you just have
Zatím se mi PSG draft vůbec nelíbí. No Jace to snad ne.
For BLG, so we're actually going to get Knight going back towards the Jace. So
What?
This was something he was really good on back
Rakan
in
Zaya,
like,
top lane, okay.
When he was playing back on
Kajsa je v pohodě proti Rakan Zaya.
Not fully surprised to see it, but it's not something that I was expecting to see with the shift away. But obviously,
Dnes je losování. Ne.
See a huge amount, but at least can match that
Zítra je
push
losování.
against the Smolder and not actually give over a ton of stacks to the Smolder because you're not playing that melee matchup in the mid lane.
And this is something, you know, people were like theory crafting on the 14-18 bust that the Jace got, but never really had a strong foothold. You only saw like very small instances of it. So I do like, you know, pulling it out here. It gives them the possibility of that double poke. You know, Kajsa, if Elk does go AP heavy route, then you also have
Nevím, ten PSG draft je dost weird, jo. Máš tady disengage Poppy, Skarner je tank, whatever, Smolder je jako fighter a pak máš all-in Zaya Rakan. Takže Poppy, Smolder, Skarner je fine, Zaya Rakan zvláštní. Nautilus Zaya, ten Nautilus je tam spíš proto, aby chytnul Smoldera, hej? Ale Nautilus není špatný do Zaya, hej? Tolaris, ty hry G2 T1 byly mega good, jako zajímavý. Bylo to back and forth, divácky to bylo velice atraktivní.
Control of areas in team fights, but it is going to be very tricky for them to find those engages. For PSG, it is do or die here in Berlin. A loss here eliminates you from contention at Worlds 2024. And after you had such a strong game one against the LPL champions, you'll be hoping that you can put up a good show and at least take us to game 3.
Yeah, you don't want to be remembered just for pushing BLG at MSI, pushing BLG.
Kdo vám řekl, že se mě máte zeptat na H2K?
History really does remember the victors, so we'll see if they can get it over the line here. Smolder, of course, you know, once you get a rapid fire cannon, then you've got you know your range and your little bit of poke as well. But we'll see if they can actually get to that stage of the game, because the Sejuani is also a great pairing with Jace. Part of the buffs, you know, for the Jace was the slow when you go in for your melee form as well. So I feel like Shun in this game just has a lot of options with lanes. Like he has
Takzvaně majitelka z H2K, ta ženská stará běží baba, mě naučila, že lidi jsou zmrdí. To byla moje první lekce z toho, že taková ta klasická 60-50 letá ženská kapitalistická svině. Doufám, že zhoří v pekle. Prosím, webku, posouvám. Co se tam stalo? No, jenom mě zničila kariéru, soudila mě o hodně peněz. Já jsem si zranil ruku ve špatných hracích podmínkách, protože mi nechtěli koupit novou židli a stůl, asi 3 měsíce. A potom to ještě otočili proti mě a soudili mě, že nemůžu performovat svoji povinnost a že nějakou škodu na újmu, nebo nevím, jak se to nadává česky, pro ně. Pak mě všude pomlouvala, že moje ruka je úplně turbo gone a že jako že nemůžu hrát za žádný tým, že si budu říkat, že moje ruka je v pohodě, takže lžu. Vyhrál jsem? Ne, musel jsem něco zaplatit. Ono to nešlo k soudu. Já jsem se vyděsil a raději jsem zaplatil. Reálně, kdyby to šlo k soudu, tak vyhrál.
Now working instead with junction with Elk, I think it is going to be something that he'll feel right at home at if he can just find some of that early success. As Kobe was already saying, the ability to play around Shun, go into melee form, stack the passive stun for
prostě já nepřeju nic špatného nikomu, ale tady ty svini přeju, ať ti přejede vole autobus a ať zhoří v pekle. V Robloxu samozřejmě.
Yeah, kind of going as expected here for BLG with their top pushing, with their bottom side pushing as well. Elk and On kind of nicely getting Betty and Woody under tower, trying to deny as much as they can. Both junglers, as you say, will finish here towards the top, towards the crashing wave. And Bin will be able to...
Kdybych to mohl vrátit, dal bych jí k soudu? Ano, dal bych jí k soudu. A ten soud bych vyhrál, 100%.
A little bit annoying there, but junglers might meet up on that Scuttle Crab regardless.
Loki ti zničila život? No to zas ne, ale z kariéru mi zničila určitě.
Looks like Ginger might try and sneak behind Bin with that wave not in the best of states for the BLG top laner.
Yeah, and you can kind of tell on the moment of the comms too. Bin backing off after he killed off those last couple of minions, because the Skarner is one of the few junglers that actually still
jako to, co jsem si viděl v H2K za celou dobu toho týmu, tak jsem pak musel zaplatit, no. To bylo hrozný. Ví o tom dlouho scéna? Podle mě ne. Ale podle mě Riot to něco tušil, protože se to řešilo i s Riotem a Riot potom vyhodil H2K z franšízy.
Gets him to safety, no longer has that summoner for the next 5 minutes.
So Junji reading correctly that Shun was going to try and go for the respawn of his Raptors camp there, but having to burn his flash makes this Skarner way less threatening on a dive, or a gank even. Now Shun, hovering around bot side again, he's going to reset.
On se pak s ní soudil můj manažer, který mi pomohl a který to řešil s Riotem, aby mi pomohl, tak ten teďka bydlí v Koreji, je to můj dobrý kámoš, Chris jmenuje se, a on se s ní pak asi 2 roky soudil s tou pizdou. Ale prohrál ten soud.
Betty and Woody have actually struggled to unfreeze this lane. Now they'll be able to do it. Ginger path towards his Krug, so he can be there first, but it's going to be about, you know, 200,
ona ta majitelka H2K byla nějak z právnické rodiny a hrozně vysoce postavený právníci v New Yorku, víš? Takže XDD.
And you've got the Sejuani still in the vicinity.
Ten G je dobrý dost modrá, hej?
Here to show his face onto bot side just to try and bluff essentially threat that they can crash the wave, but BLG not having any of it on, essentially faking that his
Zed je mega dobrý dost modrá, Vladimír taky, hej? To jsou čampové, co můžou dát all in one shot.
I love that point especially because On does this so much.
All the time.
Oh yeah. Where he fakes that someone is behind him, you know, even not in front of his own tower. A lot of the times, you know, walking into enemy territory, you can get free vision or free plays like that. It's so beneficial to both you and your jungler. Of course, it kind of allows your jungler freedom on the other side of the map too, but
ne, Radko, já jsem streamoval dlouho před H2K, jsem streamoval. Já streamuji 12 let už. On and off, já jsem streamoval na Justin TV, na Ovnedu a na Twitchi, jo. Offnet 3D byl to po piči stránka. Si pamatuju, jsem streamoval a streamoval jsem anglicky a měl jsem nějak 5000 diváků a každý stream jsem měl $2000. V té době insane. Za jeden den $2000 z reklamy. Protože se tam pouštěli reklamy a dostával si reklamy, jak kdybys byl Američan. Že oni platili všem stejně za ty reklamy, víš? Že se to nedělalo se to, že když jsi Čech, tak dostáváš 0,0 hovno, ale byl si Čech a stejně si dostával reklamy jak Američan.
And it's even good for the 1v1. Elk here, level lead down there, poking him under tower. Betty is definitely in pain this game. Meanwhile, the rest of the team here.
Byli si to tady podle mě pohlídají už tuhle hru, ale uvidíme. Dva grubíky, drak.
It's so interesting how many things kind of domino into each other in that bot lane, right? Like Elk getting the reset, then being able to freeze it out. He has the cull, there's already 49 stacks left on it, so he's over halfway towards completing it. But because of the way that they push the lane out, see Junja actually getting caught here as Jun going in for the engage on with a great hook.
Okay, tohle je huge. A ještě ten Knight dostal first blood.
Looks like this movement from On, constantly shifting around the map, holding positions so then he can get out and work his magic. And now Maple is running, hoping that he can find some sort of way to teleport out of this jungle, but short of magic or a miracle, I think he might be done for.
And he gets clipped as well by the accelerated shock blast, meaning an execute is no longer an option for Maple. Shun should be able to chase him down, who dash across the wall with a flap. Knight still chasing here.
David, díky za 2 měsíce.
That this dragon is going extinct
Knight.
alongside his buddies.
2-0 Jace.
The kill, his second of the game.
He was able to get one turret plate before he had to run into.
Teď ty byly hrajou úplně jinak, ne? Ale to by fair, zase PSG má dogshit draft teďka, oproti minulému draftu. PSG draft, ten první hru, to bylo takový, že prostě fakt easy to play, dobrý draft, teamfight draft. Zmáčneš ultimátky, vyhraješ. Víš jak.
And I think this is where you get to see BLG kind of continuing up on this pressure. The fact that again On is free hard, he's controlling that wave on bot side, sets up for Elk. He's going to take over to level 6 fairly soon and can start to move up towards him. Void Grubs.
LOL.
That's a little cheeky ultimate though.
Jak se bin, jak úplně bin. Ty svině. Full vlna off.
Try and move up here into this top side. So yeah, I think he rightfully kind of backs away after picking up the pace.
Perfect damage calculation.
Nebudeme už řešit H2K, jo?
Deny some extra minions there. And they're going to need that money because PSG, like their whole comp is set up for late game, front to back team fights. You know, BLG have poke advantages. BLG have options for later for pushing on sides as well. So PSG trying to funnel all their money, kind of huddle together, wait for their later stages where they can really synergize with their 5-on-5s.
I will say, if I'm trying to funnel my gold on this PSG comp, I don't think Azure is the one that I really want to funnel it on.
Teďka kdykoliv, kdy Jace jumpne na Smoldra, tak vyhraje, takhle ho prostě dá mu strašně moc velký damage. Hej, dobrý flash. Wow, dobrý flash od Juna. Smoldr má malo staku, protože má těžkou laning phase, hej? Jace je dobrý do Smoldra. Proto se mi nelíbí prostě blind Smolder, víš?
This is exactly the game I was envisioning for Shun when we kept talking about, oh, it's Dream for him. He got the Sejuani, he's got all these lanes I want to fight. This is him definitely executing quite well on it.
This is also very similar to how MSI went between these two teams. You know, really close sort of games where BLG looked like they're on the ropes, PSG obviously picking up a couple there. But then game 5 was a one-sided stomp. You know, it was very, very strong.
Kolik má reálně Fnatic šanci na to dát zítra Weibo? Tak 30% max. Max.
And interesting to see how BLG kind of wake up across the course of the series. Hubris.
Ale já jim budu fandit anyway.
An item we don't too often see has been seeing a lot of play in solo queue recently and in ARAM, but Kobe, do you want to
Počkej, tedy dead, ne? Ne, má flash. Proč ne flashnu? Flashnu už. Počkej, ale tady fightíme. Fightíme. OK, Jace 4-0, 5-0. Hej, jak si nechává spely na kill, to je důležité, viděli jste to? Viděli jste to, jak si to nechával na killo? 4-0-1, OK. Jak si nechával ty. Reálně si fakt nechával spely, aby potom dal killsteal. Což pro Jace jakožto win condition tuhle hru je důležitý. Jace potřebuje mít všechny goldy. Buď Jax, anebo Jace. Co dělá Elk?
Woody looking for the engage onto Elk, who dodges away with the killer instinct, has that flash as well, will have to invest it. Manages to escape the
flash heal od Rakana.
Yeah, I mean, it is a big investment, but well played by Elk in response to both of those. It's kind of,
budou mít 5 grubů, byly, to bude hrozně. 5 grubů pro Jaxa a Jace, tak to bude extrém tohle, hej.
It's so difficult because the, well, setup with the teleport, maybe they...
So Betty has no Featherstorm, but does have a cleanse and a flash. On's trying to get on top of him to get the staggering blows down.
Rakan je teda dead, ne? Never mind. Trefila Kajsa dvojtivečko na toho Rakana, nebo ne?
Yeah, the point that I wanted to focus on though was the 5 grubs now being hit for BLG.
5800 goldů.
Open up so much threat on these side lanes with Knight and Bin, because while we focused on the poke, Knight being this far ahead, you can see it on the side of your screens. He's just going to be such a menace in a side lane push, and now having that burn off of 5 grubs as well, Maple just won't be able to stack up. And sure, he's getting a little bit back for himself here with Junja and also Aja keeping control on mid, but as the game goes on, I think BLG have a lot of winning answers to PSG's questions.
As a side note, Bin for a little bit of a fight here. Should be able to force Azure out of this bush. Goes in with the counter strike. Knight dives in onto Maple. The quickness.
Just my flash.
Onto Knight. Mom is called. Azure now on the front line. BLG will disengage. But yeah, as a side note, you know, every fight is like something's gonna happen. Nah, it's fine.
Kajsa bude mít cool spike. 2k goldy. Jace teďka nemá flash. Teďka by bylo hodně dobrý nějak forcenout Jace shutdown. No matter what.
Get stronger through the course of the fight, through your hubris, which is probably why the item was named that way.
Kteří jsou největší favoriti finále? T1, Genji a LNG. Čtvrtí jsou asi Tess. Reálně. Nemá flash, je straight up dead, ne? Dobrý hookend, ale. Woody to bere.
I mean, that's actually big. Any bit of gold that PSG can get at this stage in the game could be very big for their
team na procházce, vole.
Their way out of it, and Shin is gonna be able to execute no problem. Does get all the way into enemy territory, so no further benefit gain there. But still, even being able to Skarner ult under tower,
Shun, ne Jun.
Yeah. You could also point out that these funnels, medic, are not in the correct places.
Co se vyslovuje? Jun, ne? Jun, nebo já nevím. Whatever, mám piči.
Right, but and you know, anything here for PSG try and get them on some footing where they can actually use their fight.
But the Rift Herald could be that footing. Shun's still dead. Junja coming back onto the map. Rift Herald is up and available. And this could be a moment where they try and find something, but you can see in the Mascar lane economy snapshot, Knight is massive right now. And even if you don't have Shun here for the start, the poke and the control that he offers is a little bit terrifying for PSG.
Já se těším na ten zápas zítra, těším. Tohle jsou takový, teď je takový Resident Sleeper. Ta první hra byla překvapivá, ale tohle je takový Resident Sleeper, to je takový pomalá hra od Billy si to hlídají, stompujou. Tady Jace nemá flash, ale hej, kdyby tady zabili Jace, což můžou. Ale ty vole, EQčko Jace a Betty má half HP. Tady poke potřebuje od Jace trefit. A trefuje zatím. Moc rychle to moc rychle to... OK, dobrá ult, ona ale je dead. Tady Bin veme turetu za to je fajn. Ale proč to pulovali tak rychle? Víš, co měli udělat? Nepulovat to tolik. Skarner má ult? Má ult. Snaží se, ale oni nemají damage, ne? Nebo mají? Mají. Wow. Kdo vzal ten shutdown? Skarner. Proč to forsovali tak brzo? Nebo jako, víš co? Oni musí, Jace musí poukovat. Jace musí poukovat. Skarner to vzal, no to není jako tak ideální, hej. Nevzali toho Heralda. Nevzali, no, ještě. Tady měli poukovat víc s tím Jacem a nechat Heralda tak na 70% HP a Jace pouk, Kai'Sa pouk. A tohle je takový klasický poukom, dřív se to hrálo hodně Jace Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa jede full AP, Jace full AD a máš mega dobrý pouk. Teď jsem se díval, tady to najít trošku na intil, on ví, že má shutdown, ví, že nemá flash a Skarner má ult flash a on jde back na to, aby dostal za ultě, no, to byl int. Ale jako ten shutdown na tom Skarnerovi, no nevím, no hej. Jako Skarner je silnej, ale není to broken, hej. Říká Goldu ten. Oni mají 5 grubů. Tady reálně možná vemou turetu před Poppy. Poppy nemůže nic. 5 grubů je OP. Tak prostě oni vemou celou turetu na jednu vlnu. A typy. Ale Smolder typuje! Lol? Musel flashnout okamžitě. Nautilus je vždycky dead, kámo. Nautilus je takový champ, který je 0-10 každou hru. Bin celou dobu split pushuje a hituje věže za věží. Hraje to dobře ten Bin, jakože to hraje na sebe, víš? Já vidím Jaxe a ty Jax, víš, co dělají problém Jaxové? Oni prostě strašně grupujou s týmem. Ale Jax je jakoby... Wow, tady je Elk dead, ne? Má ult, flash? Aha, tak možná není. Proč neflashnu? Proč neflashnu? Poppy, ok. Víš ale, že Jax jako, že ten Bin to hraje na sebe, farmí si, aby byl co největší level a měl co nejvíc goldů, už je 800 goldů ahead na Poppy.
Dragon number 3 starts to get a little worrisome. You know, BLG, since they already had the 5 Void Grubs and the 2 Dragons going their way.
Aži je mega good Poppy. Mně přijde, že Aži cokoliv hraje, tak je dobrý. Aži je nejlepší hráč PSG. A to říkám od play-inu, jako od play-inu to říkám, no. Že ten hráč je insane. Ale Bin je 1000 goldů ahead, protože furt farmí, hej.
And they know Knight's top and they know that Elk is bot lane, right? So Knight still has the TP, but right now, PSG get control of the river with their numbers advantage. Betty's going to be able to push out mid, can open up on that tower as well. BLG going to send Elk across to try and answer the pressure in mid.
I don't think BLG are going to fight this though. They're just looking for that tier 2 in top, trying to accelerate this chase even further. PSG not really sure how they want to approach this. Aja has this teleport up, but he's still going to run there. Terra goes down, and now if this Poppy shows on the wave, Jace TP's in.
There's the TP in.
Jace TPuje. 1600 goldů, Jace 1100. Ale poukuj, Jace, poukuj! On to netrefil, EQ. Smolder nemá staky, ne? Smolder nemá staky. On je zase dead. Oni nepoukou, oni reálně budou prohrávat na to, že nepoukou s tím Jacem. Protože Poppy Skarner jsou tak strašně tanky teďka. Tyhle Poppy Skarner jsou mega tanky. Kdyby se PSG tolik nebáli, tady si reálně myslím, že kdyby se PSG nebáli a Skarner flashnul in a prostě by fightili, tak vyhrajou. Ale tím, že se moc bojí, reálně tím, že se bojí, tak prostě PSG tady měli kámo legit vyhrát celý fight, podle mě. Fakt? Skarner Poppy jsou moc silní, sleduj. Oni nepoukujou. Tady je ten fight, sleduj. Fighti, Woody fight, prostě supporti za supportaj. Jo. Ale teď kdyby Skarner šel in a nebál se a za flash ultnul třeba, dívej, tady furt mohl jít in. Tady mohl jít in, Poppy mohla jít in, fightit. Zaya má ult. Tady taky můžou fightit, víš? Oni jsou všichni low a Skarner Poppy jsou nesmrtelní. Nemá flashy, Skarner měl flashy. Flash ult měl. Kajsička neměla flash, ale to je jedno, on neměl flash engageovat, jako kdyby, ale on měl prostě zmáčknout forward a jít dopředu a fightit. Je nesmrtelný. V tom fightu neměl flash, to je jedno, tak měl jít in s pelama, to je jedno, irrelevant. Billy vypadají hrozně ztraceně tyhle Worlds. Hrozně, hej. Zdar, proč nehraješ LEC, když jsi tak chytrej? Protože mi je hodně let a nejsem tak dobrý mechanicky už. Já nevím, mně se líbí ten draft PSG actually je broken, hej? Co dělá Betty? Pane bože, on frownul vyhranej fight! Kámo, ale pozor, legit, Jace je 2k gold ahead, ale je úplně useless. A Smolder začíná scalovat a Zaya vypadá dobře proti těm enemy. Jako tady PSG, dívej, tady ten draft, oni prostě nemají damage proti tomu scannerovi. Tady kdyby to nenaintil Betty, tak mají, vole... Dívej, proč flashuje in, proč? To nebyl great flash, what are you co děláš, co smokujou?
There was one auto that went onto Shun instead of going onto Elk, and I think that would have killed him. I think that would have killed him so close, but I love the fact that Betty's feeling himself enough to go for those sorts of plays in a series like this when your world spot is on the line.
Víš, co potřebují Billy potřebují 4 itemy na Kajse a 4 itemy na Jaceovi a pak poukovat a pak vyhrajou.
Elk not here. Knight the first target. Azure locks him up for a second. On going forward as well. Azure still trying to chase Knight out. Bin here to join the party as On flashes away. Keeper's verdict on Bin is that he needs to come back in a couple of moments.
Bin typuje hovno, tady vyhrávají Billy, hrozně. Tady free hituje Elk a Jax. Kámo, piča, Bin je insane, ale kámo. Jak on vidí ten angle prostě, okamžitě a flankne to. Kdo za tebe jsou nejlepší castři? Vedius Drakos.
BLG. I'm sure their fans were not worried at any moment in any game in this series.
No, could tell you, not at all.
Honestly, though, now with Baron buff, it should start to look smooth again for them. They did have a very, very good start to this game. Just ran into a little bit of trouble in the last few team fights. But here's a look at how this one actually started out. And it was a little bit more risky at the very beginning because of the positioning here through River. And they do get an ejection onto Bin, but he just says, fine, I will teleport back for the flank angle.
And the thing is, it's so
hrozně se grupujou a kámo, Jack si to.
Even goes to the flash past the feather pull as well from the Zaya, and then I think even maybe leap strikes away a second time.
Bin ukazuje, jak broken je to plane. Ten cápek legit, ale počkej, Bin a i Zeus ukázali dneska vlastně, dneska je to top lane defeat. Každou hru. Dneska legit prostě oba topaři Bin a Zeus ukázali, že ty máš tolik playmaking potential jako top laner, ty engageuješ každý fight a když umíš flankovat, tak vyhraješ každý fight. A když použiješ správně své fighty, tak to hrozně setupneš.
And every comp with a Bin Jax is just a Bin Jax comp as well. Especially if you have a Sejuani, but he's over 2,000 gold ahead now as well, working on the Frozen Heart, so he can be a tank in the middle.
Už mají poke damage, Ale Zaya damage se Smolderem. Zaya už má damage, hej? Zaya už má v AP damage, dívej, poke. Už to pokujou.
Bin looking for a little bit more as Woody dashes out of the fight. Bin wasn't even really needed, just forces PSG away. Now the tier 2 in the bot lane, the target for BLG.
There's a nice attempt from PSG, but Bin on the flank sets up for BLG to take the fight. Now he's back on towards mid, and he's healthy as you like.
Pozor, 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 Bin to najítil. Bin to najítil.
This is Ben we're talking about, and then he dashes away with a leap strike. Put him in the trash bin. Does exactly what you need him to do in that situation. For a moment, I thought there was no way out for him, but who's locked in where with whom?
When there's no way out, look for the way in.
I mean, he's a boxer, right? So he just has to dodge everything, but he still gets hit by everything. Maybe it's more the Homer Simpson approach to boxing, where he just absorbs everything.
Kámo, legit, Bin 0-0, 1v3, tady tohleto. Tady tohleto.
Look how close he was to the execute there.
God doesn't make the world this way. None of you seem to understand. I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
Smolder? Ne, static shift. Smolder! Co to je za film? Po piči insane film. Watchmen. Watchmeni se to jmenuje? Ten film je... Actually, já si musím zapamatovat, že Watchmeni jsou moji oblíbený film. Interstellar, Inception, Watchmen. To jsou moje top 3 filmy.
BLG are looking to get to 2-2 to challenge for the quarterfinals, to continue to level up. As they
ale byli vypadají docela ztraceně, když jako takhle. Jako dneska Bin, Zeus. Nerf top fast. Má to moc velký impact.